Greetings and salutations. I cannot imagine that anybody is actually watching at this point, um, nor would they watch at any point. But as soon as I say that Sam's watching, thought it was pizza night. Sam, where's that pie? Hey, what's up, man? How are you doing? I don't know if he is your guy as much because he kind of falls out of the like soul world that most of coal mine stuff is in. But I'm really digging that Reverend Baron that came, I mean, physically released or whatever, just a few days ago. But I know that was like a record he did in 2019, but like the first physical release, at least on vinyl, was just this past week. But I'm really digging that stuff. So yeah, curious on your thoughts since he's outside of sort of like the soul, funk type stuff they're usually doing. Yeah. Hey Richard, how's it going? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Yeah, pepperoni. You get a nice little local place, Domino's. Pepperoni and onion. That's a good combo. I've found myself the older I've gotten, the more I've like gravitated towards non-meat toppings. Does that sound weird? Like my favorite like topping on a pizza is mushroom, but I smack like a green onion or something, or a green pepper. All that type of stuff. So, yeah, that's good stuff. Hey, Trevor, picking up the kid at the airport. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I know how much fun it is to navigate SeaTac, as you all call it. But Trevor, if you get bored later, because it's like your kid's home and you're bored of your kid already, you are more than welcome to come join and hang out and chug a few beers with me, just like old times, like we used to do, Trevor, before you graduate into bigger, better things. Hey, Steve, I appreciate you. I could totally use the public watch hours, So, yeah, I'm not really showing a whole lot right now. I do have a little box next to me, I guess, of like some heavy spins or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I wish I was watching the Olympics. I don't have cable or Peacock or anything. What I should have done, if this was maybe like a week ago, I would have done this. But I don't have like Peacock or anything. What I should have done is gotten like they were doing like a trial thing for like $8 of like get it for a month and it's $8. I should have done that and then canceled it, but I don't know. I wish I was watching the Olympics. Yeah, YouTube before everything, right? That's kind of what we're taught, right? Wow, I'm impressed. Not bad, not bad. Hey, Vinyl Piper, hope you're doing well, man. So you were just out had a visit with you're up in the SeaTac area, right? I see you were just hanging out with Mazzy a little bit. Looked like a ton of fun. That is one I didn't get. Busy school and stuff lately with kids this year. I haven't had the vinyl lately, but I have a bunch of pre-order from Gold Mine. Yeah. Gosh, what's coming soon is I think the new Harlem Gospel Traveler. I think is that the next pre-order that should be coming in, I think. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how it should be, personally. But yeah. Well, you could be up here too, Sam, but you've also chosen family over YouTube, and for that I cannot understand. So yeah. Yeah, not much of like a topic or anything like that. Kind of shooting from the hip or whatever, as they say. I guess I do have some records to show if that is what people are into. Don't know if they are, but yeah, this sounds really good. I am not an audiophile. I've had this conversation a lot with Sam. I my 2 cents into the whole audiophile conversations that go on. That we've sort of like black and whited this thing of like you're either an audiophile or you're not, right? And I think that's kind of not an accurate portrayal of like how people actually are or feel about things. I think everybody to a certain extent would say like I do care about sound, right? But it's to the level that you care about sound and all the type of stuff that you make huge monetary investments or care about Dead Wax and the extent that you care about Dead Wax and all those types of things. And so I don't know, it's always interesting when people are like, oh, I'm not an audiophile. Like, are you an audiophile? And I'm like, well, to a certain extent, people are, but anyway, so I have to say, I'm very selective with the type of audiophile, quote unquote, records I buy. And I've kind of gotten to a point now where I only will buy the quote unquote high end audiophile version if well, what am I trying to say? High end, with the exception, I don't buy UHQRs or one steps or anything, but like we're talking like in that $40 to $50 to $60 range. Only if I am a huge fan of the album, such as like it is like a favorite album of mine or something that I think is just grossly underrepresented or something like that. So very selective with those things. But I did get this, and I have listened to it a number of times because I do love. I remember talking about this maybe several weeks ago when they announced it. I do really like this album. And I feel like as a genre, this is very underrepresented in the audiophile world. But this is the most recent, well, I guess recent before the recent announcement that they're doing ZZ Top, but the Rhino High Fidelity announcement of Yes's Relayer. I know this is a pretty, I don't want to say it's a controversial record. I think this is a record that sort of split people, not nearly as much as Topographic Oceans, but to me, the big thing here was A, this is a top 5 Yes record for me. B, and what I was kind of getting at, and I've said this before, that in my opinion, this genre as a whole is severely underrepresented in quote unquote audiophile world. You're not getting many, you're not getting King Crimson Records much audiophile. You're not getting, with the exception now of all this Atlantic 75 stuff coming from Acoustic Sounds, with the Genesis catalog and stuff like that, especially second, third tier stuff. And a lot of that is based on popularity, right? Like not a lot of people are going to go buy, an audiophile version of, I don't know, Hatfield in the North. But I do think that to a certain extent, there is a market for it. Not to say that you have to do 5,000 copies. And I know you have to do a certain amount of copies for it to be profitable and all that kind of stuff. But I love this album. For those who are not aware of it, 3 tracks. Whole side 1 of Gates is the Gates of Delirium, which I think to me goes down with some of the biggest and best epics of all time. You don't really hear it up there with like the Supper's Readies and the Lark's Tongues and Aspics and like those types of things. You don't even hear in the Yes. You'll hear obviously Close to the Edge, and you'll hear the 4 separate tracks off of Topographic Oceans and some other stuff. But to me, Gates of Delirium, I put up there with some of the best epics in the world. So, yeah. And for Sound Chaser to be over, I mean, it is a perfect record in the sense that, people, what's the difference between a perfect record and our favorite records or best records, right? Like there's not a weak spot on this record, but are the highs as high as Close to the Edge or any of those other records? Who knows? But yeah, this has been getting a lot of time on the table. Let's see. Awesome. You got that on pre-order. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That's good stuff. Oh, very cool. You're from Seattle, but live in LA. You're oh, very cool. That's awesome. Love that. Gotcha. Yep. So, Colmax, I took these and see. Oh, man, I've heard they're amazing. I know our boy Scott down at DJ Von Vertigo just saw them up in Montreal and said it was amazing. So there's that. Foo Fighters in Denver tonight with the Pretenders and Mammoth Wolfgang. Yeah, it's a fascinating. I do appreciate the pairing that Foo Fighters was going with there. With it's like one of these things is not like, well, actually, 2 of these things is not like the other, but neither of these things are like the other. So that's a cool pairing, though. I think that's pretty awesome. But yeah, I could. There's nothing that sounds worse than a 98-degree outdoor concert for sure. Relayer is awesome. First song. Yeah. See, Jack, the music guy. Of course, you know what it's like. I think prog audiophile releases are very much unneeded because the vast majority of them already sound good. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. You know, I do wonder the extent from the audiophile perspective. You know, if I'm a MoFi or an Analog Productions or whatever, like what goes into the philosophy of, do we want to make an audiophile version of this record? Like, do they say, well, these already sound good, so therefore it's not worth looking at? Do they just look at popularity? Do they look, you know, I mean, knowing that, you know, if they do an audiophile version of a record that sells a gazillion copies, will sell a gazillion more? You know, do they just look at whatever was cool at the time? I don't know, but it is interesting, especially when you have, you know, Acoustic Sounds doing their Analog 70 or their Atlantic 75 series. I mean, they're doing a ton of these records. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there are some records out there that were criminally recorded or mastered terribly and all that type of stuff, right? Like, you know, Aqualung became like the classic example of that we needed this, you know, $300 UHQR to make it worth it. But then, Steve, I've heard you say, like, you know what, like my 33 RPM Steven Wilson remix, that's what, $25, sounds just as good, if not better. So yeah, you know, I think for me it's interesting, and again, going back to what informs when and if I will buy an audiophile record. You know, it's like some of it too for me is like, I am somebody who likes buying originals, and of course this will be an exception here, but you know, if an original is, you know, a $5 to $8 record, it's hard for me to justify a $50 to $80 purchase on a record that's $5. Now, a lot of like jazz titles that I do have audiophile versions of those, but truthfully, that's because even at 40 or $50, that's a lot of times a percentage of what an original would cost. And so it almost seems like it's the second best option of what I would prefer, but also sounds better, right? So I don't know. I wish I had like a cool formula. I really don't. It's just sort of whatever is going on. We love to hear it. Table tennis. We love to think of it. Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, and I'm sure but okay, I'm sure Steve was like, yeah, because that album sucks because you ain't got no time for the Sex Pistols. But I'm curious, Richard, is that because you're okay? So that's the other thing too, right? Is like you have some records that were recorded. Actually, this was popping up on Surface Noise on Concert Buddies. I guess Thursday, they were talking about a bunch of audiophile stuff, and all that kind of stuff. But somebody had mentioned, I was kind of tuning in and out or whatever, but somebody was talking about how they brought up like White Light, White Heat from the Velvet Underground, and how they're like, what would be the purpose of doing an audiophile release of that record that, I mean, to me personally, by design is supposed to sound garagey and sloppy and terrible, right? Like it's supposed to sound like that and sound like it was recorded in a, you know, a tin can sort of thing. And I think there's a lot of genres, punk being one of those, that's kind of like that. And so, I mean, yeah, it's like, why would we want the Velvet Underground to be reissued in audiophile form? Like, what are you going to do with that? That's going to make it better. Like, you can't fix Lou Reed, right? Like, well, you know, who can? That is what they used to call you, isn't it, Sam? Some people still do call you that, but pretty much recorded by a herd of monkeys playing with the mixing board. No one needs an audiophile version. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? And so, but you know, I would go back to again, the idea like that's the point, right? Like I don't think you know, punk bands were trying to, and I don't think ear candy was like a term that was used much in those times. But let's see. I would buy that White Light, White Heat UHQR And I have an OG, but I am broken that way. Well, here's the thing, Vinyl Piper. You have a lot of really great original records and promos and everything else. I've seen just your collection through Instagram, and it is out of control. So yeah, I don't doubt that. But the other reality too is that we are, and people also don't like saying this, but like, you are like people are collectors, right? Like with collecting any niche sort of item, like comes this thing of like you want special edition things, you want limited things, you want the best sounding version of things. Like that's not just true to records. Baseball card collectors. I remember, what would they used to do? They would do all the dumb stuff with like sports cards where they would put like a fabric of the jersey in the card. I remember when I was growing up, and maybe this has like informed some of my collecting today. I had a Michael Jordan rookie card that had a piece of the floor from Camden, whatever the Chapel Hill arena is called. I forget what it's called. I'll probably call it the Duke one, and then people get mad. But it came with a piece of the floor, quote unquote. And it was like super limited, only 75 of these made in the entire world. And of course, you're like, oh my God, it's got the floor. And my dad at the time, I was probably like 8 or 9. And my dad's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is the coolest. And I think like we see that now, right? It's Opeth, one of my favorite bands of all time. They just released, they got a new album coming out in October. I have the album on pre-order, but of course they had some box sets. And with the box sets, you got the record, cool. I think you got a t-shirt, cool. And then you have customized Opeth pens. You had pens so that you could show all your friends that you have progressive death metal pens into the box set. So like, those are things that we pay for. So I can understand why people would pay a lot more. You're right. It's the collector thing and all that kind of stuff. So that's just a random rant. But I love Van Halen, but I can't justify $100+ for all those one steps. Now those are Richard. Those are one steps, not UHQRs. Don't get it twisted. One is Mobile Fidelity and the other is Acoustic Sounds. Now, UHQR, which I think this kills me. UHQR just stands for ultra high quality record. Used to be a Mobile Fidelity item way back in the day. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing. Was UHQR way back in the day used to be MoFi's. It used to be the original one step, but we're talking back, I think, in like the 80s, maybe. But now Acoustic Sounds has them. So it's definitely it's definitely now interesting. So Acoustic Sounds has the UHQR and MoFi has the one step, and then you have the Craft one steps, and then the Impex one steps, and everybody's got a one step and all those different things. But again, it's to each their own, right? Like I think here's what I would say about the Van Halen stuff. I think that totally falls into more obviously people love Van Halen, and people who love Van Halen really love Van Halen. I think though, in my purely unqualified, underpaid, intelligence, to me the magic of doing the Van Halen catalog was again this idea of let's do a musical style and genre that is not typically done, right? Like everybody's doing jazz all the time, right? Everybody seems to be doing sort of like classic early 70s, mid 70s stuff all the time. Even, getting into some of like, what was it? Upstairs at Eric's. Was that it? Yaz? Stuff. Even like that type of stuff we've gotten into. We have not done the hard rock. We've not done the heavy metal. We've not done a ton of that type of stuff. And so I think they're obviously they're crazy popular records to begin with, but again, I think very underrepresented in the whole audiophile world. You know what I mean? It's interesting thinking about MoFi and their one steps and how they've announced sort of, or UHQR, same way they do with like Steely Dan, right? It's like they will announce the whole catalog. Great. Or One Step did that with Joni Mitchell, and they did that with Van Halen, where they're like, we're going to do the entire catalog, or, we're only going to do these years or whatever. Interesting. But like, what if, and I love Joni Mitchell, but like, what if it was like, we're going to do the whole Slayer catalog. We're going to do the whole Metallica catalog. We're going to do, I don't know. We're going to do the whole Kansas catalog. right? Like, okay, yeah, most people are not going to be interested in that. Fair. That's probably why they don't do it. But I think, again, with the Van Halen thing, it's this idea that people are going to um, love it because it's very under sort of represented. Sounds great for sure. Wish they were UHQR. Yeah, because at least they'd be analog, maybe. I mean, depending on what the source was, I guess. I don't really know. But I've been drinking, give me a break, cost too much. I have sound just fine. Well, that's the reality. I mean, I think this is an area that I will fully admit it goes into like collector mode. Is like I truly don't think my system would support the sonic differences that much anyway, right? Like, you know, I'm not on a $15,000 or even a $2,000 setup. So I mean that's the other thing too, right? And I think the vast majority of people are not. Oh, I forgot they did that. That that ERC did. But what is that? I mean, do those ERC records, did those retail for like 500, or am I making that up? I know. Mike at the End Group has a lot of opinions about ERC and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I mean, again, for a collector, like, where does it end, right? Like, there's a million different ways it could go all the time. Where does it end? And if it's an artist that you care a lot about, then like, you know, you'll do everything, right? Like, Steve, if you're still out there watching, right? Like, I was thinking about like the Peter Gabriel box set. Well, what additional did you get out of the box set that you wouldn't just get with buying the record? You got both mixes, but you could just buy both mixes. That came with a book. Did it come with the CDs? Right, like that was like a big box set. And you're a box set guy, right? So, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I said. Interesting, right? And again, like I'm guessing that Steven Wilson remix is a $25 or $30 record and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I think like anything else, collectors are going to collect and do their thing. I almost sometimes wonder too, ooh, this is like next level stuff. Good one. I almost wonder too if collectors just, buy these things to collect them, but then like the quote unquote audiophile stuff is, it's like the justification for it later, like, oh my God, I can't believe you spent, $150 on a record. And you're like, yeah, but it sounds great. But the thing is too, is like, okay, like we would never spend $150 on a record. A lot of us wouldn't spend $150 on a record, but or I'm sorry. See, there you go. A lot of us would not spend $150 on a audiophile reissue of a record, maybe. But would we spend $150 on any record ever? Right? Like if it is your favorite record of all time and it came out in 1992 and it never got a reissue and you love that record to death and you're a vinyl collector, would you spend $150 on that record? I think, some people probably would. Is that different? Is that the same? I think like I've heard a lot of people say like I would never spend $100 on a record before, but I've seen them drop $300 on a box set that contains I'm getting connection problems over here. I'm unsure why. Never had connection issues before. Seems like we're coming back here. That was weird. Anthony, what's up, brother? Yeah, you got Metallica, what, tonight and tomorrow? Was that it? Man, appreciate you supporting, brother. You're the man. You are the man. Let's see here. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that grunge stuff, a lot of the metal stuff, right? Like, I feel like being pushed back into buying CDs, press vinyl in general is getting stupid. It sure is, 1000%. All right, thanks. Hopefully I'm back. It looks like I'm back good. But yeah, it's like I've seen people, myself included, and I've regretted it and whatever. But like, we buy a box set for $100 that includes an album that might be, that you could find in original up for $10, but has, 6 LPs worth of demos and outtakes, like that's okay, right? We have no problem spending that kind of money. It's like, you want to hear 42 versions of Like a Rolling Stone? Take my money, take my money. But if you want the best sounding collectible special edition version of the album that you love to death, that's $150. It's like, oh, I would never do that, sort of thing. I don't know which way. I'm just kind of teetering on the edges here of, I think, some different things, but, it's true. Hey, you're right, man. They are coming back. That should be interesting there. And they take up the least amount of space, I guess, depending on how you look at like surface area of a tape versus like a CD or something. But yeah, for sure. All that, early grunge stuff and, or just like ultra rare stuff, right? Like, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know like what the going rate of a, you might know this, Vinyl Piper. I don't know what the going rate is of like a near mint first pressing is of Kind of Blue from Miles Davis. I don't know. I would, what is it, like 600? But I have no idea. Most popular jazz record of all time, and a first of that, clean, whatever. I'm guessing multiple hundreds of dollars. I could be wrong, but that's a guess of mine. Well, by that standard, $150 for the best of the best audio file, sweet packaging, double 45 RPM, comes with a BJ, all that type of stuff. Doesn't sound that bad. I mean, I've had bar tabs for more money. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Well, then you would know, Dave. You would know. How much is that? Tim, what's up, man? Who's the last rock star that you had a run-in with, and were they nice? Were they friendly? How'd you feel about it? It's good to see you, Dave. Welcome. Hope you're doing swell. Hope everybody's doing great. What are people doing tonight? Are you also home, alone, contemplating life? All that comes with it? Boom. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else I am spinning a lot. Well, here's a band. We're going to switch sides entirely. Here's a band that I've become pretty much obsessed with. I have been for a while, but now it is like my goal. I got to complete this collection of all reissues, which I'm good with, or mostly reissues, I guess. But this is the most recent edition. It was on sale, and I love it. I will say it's probably the worst name for it's probably the worst name for an album in terms of like describing what it actually is. But this is American heavy metal band Savatage. So these guys formed, I mean, I guess technically it was like early 80 or 1979 or something like that. But I think their debut came out maybe 84, 83, 84, something like that. And was just good old fashioned American heavy metal all the way. It's not thrash, it's not new wave of British heavy metal, it's not any of that type of stuff. It is just good old fashioned American heavy metal. The quick of this, and I've spoke about this before. This band really became more well known after the fact. They never really blew up or were never really huge, but the remnants of this band went on to form the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which has become like the biggest Christmas band ever, who making gazillions of dollars every year playing your and my favorite Christmas tunes, both standards and originals. And so pretty much, the whole Trans-Siberian Orchestra was formed by Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill produced a lot of the Savatage records. In the mid 90s, Savatage sort of had changed their sound a little bit and moved away from like that just gnarly 80s metal to a little bit more symphonic, a little bit more conceptual. The guitarist had passed, which I'll get to here in a second. But that would move into Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So there's that. But this is, and the reason this is such a terrible name is because it's called Ghost in the Ruins, a tribute to Chris Oliva. Now, when you see that, a tribute to Chris Oliva, what that usually says is that somebody died and there's going to be a tribute to them. And by a tribute, usually that means we're going to bring in a bunch of other guests. People are going to be doing cover songs. It is a tribute to the artist. It's other people playing his solos and paying their respects. It's like that is typically what that means. No, it's just a great fucking live record comprised of like the songs that they feel best fits Chris Oliva before he died in 93 or 94. And so, it's funny sitting here like it's not a tribute album by any means. It's an amazing Savatage live record. So I've been spinning the hell out of this. Height of their career. Most of this is taken right after the Gutter Ballet record, which came out in 1989. So a lot of the recording is from 1990, but takes a ton of stuff from that, takes a ton of stuff from the Hall of Mountain King, which is kind of their biggest record and all that type of stuff. But if you are a fan of heavy music, shredding guitar, amazing riffs, just amazing gurgly screaming vocals that only John Oliva, his brother, could do. You might be into the Savatage thing. And again, it is kind of interesting that they went on to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra thing. Because, and I think the reason that's so interesting is you can hear in their music that was going on in times like this, there's parts of the music that you would find in later Trans-Siberian Orchestra passages. Very interesting stuff. In fact, they're most well known for their Christmas Eve in Sarajevo. Their whole kind of Carol the Bells mashup with God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen sort of thing. It's on Christmas radio every year. It's in every commercial, all that type of stuff. The funny thing is technically, legally, that is not a Trans-Siberian Orchestra song. It is a cover song from Savatage, and they did it on their concept record, Dead Winter Dead, in the mid 90s. So there's your fun fact of the day. All right. Dave, I don't know if you're into heavy metal or not, but if you're into them, that'd be great. Yeah, well, and their stuff's just hard to find, right? Like originals of their records are really expensive. Reissues are really expensive. I mean, like their typical reissues now are like $50, which is a ton. So there's that. Well, here's why, Steve, because I'm a 90s guy. All right. And the 90s, you weren't cool unless you put a short sleeve shirt over your long sleeve shirt. So that is what I do. I feel it's becoming a little bit of a signature for me. And although it might be 90 outside, it is 72 inside, which is still a little bit cool, but I'm trying to save this money so that I can buy overpriced vinyl records that I've been talking about for the last 35 minutes. The first two albums of those Jews, but in high school in the 80s, I never heard of them. Well, here's the thing. So the first two would be Sirens, and then technically, I think the Dungeons Are Calling was the EP right after that. But there's two versions of Sirens. There's the original cover and then like the latter cover. If you have like the original Sirens cover with the blue vinyl, that's like $1,000 record, which I'm sure you probably do have. But feel free to send me that if the spirit moves you and you're not into it. Vinyl Piper would love that. But yeah, if it's the original Sirens with the blue cover and with the actual blue vinyl, that's like $1,000 record. Why? Yeah, I've heard of Slaughter to Prevail. I don't think I've ever listened to them. I also did not know that they were Russian, but have definitely heard of them. Yeah. Not quite deep freeze, just because here's the thing. I mean, I love cold weather. I love to be cold. In fact, when it's winter out, I keep my thermostat, like I keep my heat at 60. Like I will fully sleep and live in 60 degrees, put on a hoodie, my pajama pants, no problem. In the summer though, I gotta save that money. You know, like I said, I gotta save that money to to buy more stupid ass records that I don't need. So Dave's here. What's up, Dave? Rode an elevator with a wasted Leon Russell. Well, that's pretty sweet. I love that. 1991, I was in an elevator with a drunk Lemmy from Motorhead. He was wasted. Both of those track. Anthony, I've seen Transparent Orchestra down Mohegan's fantastic musicians, but the show was over 3 hours long. Left intermission boring. Yeah, they are 3 hour long shows. That is absolutely true. That's so funny. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I have heard, people are like, you get, especially like some older people go and they're like, I love Christmas music. And then there's like pyrotechnics and like, Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake or whatever band he's in at the time, just like shredding all over the place and screeching vocals. And they're like, this is not Mannheim Steamroller. Steamroller. Okay. Love that. All right. Phone check. Oh, that's okay. Well, and then is it the blue cover with like circle cover, or is it like the kids on the front with like sirens written in, I think, green? Still, I mean, to be fair, still original, but not like first or whatever. It's that whole thing of like, if it doesn't have the typo on the label, it's not the first, bruh. But yeah, that would be dope. Let's see. I do want to give a shout out while he's here. Let's see here. Let's grab some stuff. I do want to give out a shout out while he's here to Anthony Gambler 812. Please make sure that you jump on that because he's the man and one of the coolest and best people I know. But when we were there for MGK Boston's party a couple weeks ago, we were hanging out on Friday night at Anthony's place, which is amazing, by the way. And he had a number of bins of records that he was purging. He's like, I got these bins, I got room for them, I've gone through them, I'm not interested, I'm trying to get rid of them, all type of stuff. And so I was going through there just to see if there was anything that really caught my eye that I was like, oh my god, that's a grail, that's what I've been looking for forever, sort of thing. And there are a couple of really great things. I think Anthony has since sold that and moved those in the best way. And so good on you, Anthony, for making that work. But a couple days later, Anthony, who's like one of the best thrifters on YouTube, went to Savers, I think, up there in the Northeast, and was like, I got all these for, a couple bucks or whatever. And there was one in there that I saw, and I was like, oh, that's a great record. I want that record. I'm trying to collect everything from that person. And he was kind enough to send it to me, amongst some other things that I'll show. And that person is Roland Kirk, jazz artist from the great city of Columbus, Ohio, which is a lot of the reason I want to collect all of Roland Kirk stuff. This was an earlier record because at this time he's Roland Kirk, not Rahsaan Roland Kirk. Whole story was he changed his name. He added the Rahsaan. Why? It wasn't like it wasn't like a conversion to a different religion or something. No, he had a dream and he had a vision. And in the dream and vision, his name was Rahsaan. So he wakes up and changes his name to Rahsaan. But this is some out there stuff. He, Roland Kirk, or Rahsaan Roland Kirk, was blind. And he was known for playing multiple instruments at the same time, some far out wacky type stuff. Not quite. I mean, a lot of the stuff is pretty avant-garde, but not all of it. Some of it's pretty straightforward too. But at this point, he was on Atlantic Records. And this is an original stereo. So this was left and right. This was before, I forget when the name change was. I want to say maybe early 70s. But this came out in 1969. And so I saw that and I was like, Roland Kirk, I don't have that one. I'm trying to get the stuff. And so he was like, I got you, bro, and was so kind to send this to me. And it was just awesome. And it's clean and just it just worked out perfectly. But with that, he said, I remember you mentioning a few things when you were going through those bins. So I threw those in there too. So I'm a huge fan of this jazz artist as well. You know, never really did anything bad. And this is just a cool, great comp. But it is the history of Wes Montgomery, obviously one of the greatest jazz guitarists of all time. So he threw that in there for me again. Clean, good stuff. Wes Montgomery is just, he is the man. And then last, and this one meant so much because I've had a copy of this, but it was so trashed. I mean, it's not a rare record by any means, although it is my favorite from this artist. And in the whole Beatles canon of solo artist material, this is probably my second favorite record. And again, the version I had was just wrecked, and I had always been meaning to replace it. And he was kind enough to send me his copy, or the copy that he had of Ram. So I could just not be any more grateful to Anthony for sending me this stuff. So cool, so dope, and for him to, like, you know, not only care enough to send me the record that was like, oh yeah, send me that, but then to remember the conversations that we were having a couple weeks ago, and me mentioning that I was looking for another copy of Ram just meant the world. So Anthony, you're just the man. I appreciate you more than you know, brother, and hope you have a great weekend. And seeing the boys up there in Foxborough, I'm sure it's going to be a crazy show. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't even know if I feel comfortable showing this right now. Hold on. I am not PBRing. Believe it or not, and this is really hard for me to say live publicly in front of the entire world and all 15 of you watching. Trying to take better care of myself. I know. And so I am drinking less. I am watching what I eat, you know, the whole thing. And because of that, I decided that, okay, well, if I am going to drink, how can you still drink, you know, your beer and vinyl? You can't get away from that. How can you still have some beers, but treat your body better? And because of that, I am drinking superior light beer, as they say, Michelob Ultra. Yes, I know. Call me a sellout. Call me whatever you want to call me. But to me, I think they're 95 calories and 2.6 carbs. So if that is a small difference that I can make to lower the caloric intake, lower the carb intake, lower the sugar intake, all those different things, I suppose I better grow up and make those decisions before my body revolts against me before the age of 35, right? So all right, hold on. Let's catch up here. Okay, so you got the third and fourth album. So that might be what, Fight for the Rock and Power of the Night. Yeah, you're the best, Anthony. You are the best. Yeah, man, Wes is great. He's awesome. Well, and the nice part about Wes Montgomery too, Richard, is, I mean, his stuff, most of it's on Verve. I think some of it is, well, most of it's on, I think, Verve, no, most of it I think that I've seen is on A&M, and then this is on Verve, and so most of that stuff is super affordable. I mean, I think most of the Wes Montgomery records I have, I've gotten out of like budget bins and that type of stuff. Like, you know, they're super affordable, couple of bucks each. You can really kind of build out that gallery. Now, I've heard a lot about Skullfist because I know Bryce Talks Metal doesn't do as many videos as he used to. He used to be always cranking out videos all the time. He is a huge fan of Skullfist. And they're Canadian. Okay. Blends Late. Yeah. That's totally what I've heard about them too. Yeah. I know Bryce Talks Metal, again, like that's like a favorite band of his. He used to do videos a ton, but not so much anymore. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do have some good people that follow me. They're awesome. Mick Ultra is fine. At least it tastes like beer. Yeah, and you know, here's what I will say in comparison to PBR, especially, is that it really is so light that it what it does is it sends a signal that was like, wow, like I don't think I was realizing how sweet PBR is, like in terms of like sugar content. Like thinking like drinking this now, like it doesn't taste like anything, right? It tastes like rice water, but with 2.7 carbs. But comparing it to like when I would be drinking PBR and stuff like that, it tastes so much lighter and so much less sweet, and it's a little bit drier and all that type of stuff. So the joke is it probably will just force me to drink more of it. So, you know, who am I? Hey, Emma, wish you were up here joining me. That would be really cool. But, you know, you have more important things going on like vacation, family. I wish I had a family on vacation. But no, we need to get back on the Beer and Vinyl Low show ASAP Rocky for sure. Yes, everybody say hi to Emma. Everybody say hi to Emma. Only his last 3 albums were on him. I guess I have those then, because I think I do have those 3. Interesting. Hey Steve. Hey Richard. Hey Chris, what's happening, man? Chris, if you're bored on a Saturday and drinking beer, you don't have to be drinking beer. If you're bored on a Saturday, want to hang out on a live stream and talk music and life and all the things, let me know, man. Be cool to hang out. It's just me up here right now, but the water is fine for all those interested. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Last encounter would have been Tommy. I read that as like Tommy Teuton said like Joey Fatone. Fatone? Never mind. Okay. So yeah, I got your number, Jenny, all that type of stuff. Tom Bailey, Thomas Dolby, Modern English. Yeah, Modern English is still touring. They played here last year. Tiny club of like 150, 200 people. So yeah, all good stuff. That's right. It's Broski Montana. Apparently, that's right, man. I love that. Yeah, same time. I think Chris is catching up. Chris, hit that go live. I think you're catching up to the stuff. Yeah, we talked. I gave the whole rundown on Trans-Aryan Orchestra, all the stuff. Mike, MGK Boston is here now. Mike, I was actually thinking about you. Well, I'm always thinking about you. I was thinking about you yesterday because I was at a local little pop-up record show thing. You know, the place that you go and people are charging like $80 for $20 Pink Floyd records, and that says they're near mint, but they're not, you know, sort of thing. And I swear to you, I saw three different copies of David Crosby's solo record. What's it called? What's my name? Where have I known you? My name. Anyway, I remember you saying these are things I pay attention to, that you are always said that you are always on the lookout for a clean copy of that. And if I was going to find one, I was going to buy it and send it to you. And every single one, I didn't trust it to send it to you. So yeah, I just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you though. It's all I can do. All right, all the stuff going on. Dave, Mike, Emma, everybody's yelling at each other. We love to see it. Oh, is that what it was? Oh, well, that's important. Don't forget Wang Chung. Let's see. Well, I mean, that sounds fine, but Chris, if you want to come up here, man, come hang out, bro. Come hang out, bro. I know you don't live stream as much as you used to before you got all big and famous and avatar like and all that kind of shit, but you know, don't forget about us young ones down here too, man. All right. Let's see what else is going on in record world. Yeah, thank you. And just remember, I didn't buy one. I did not buy one because the last thing I needed was to send you one, and then you to be like, "Well, this is really nice, Alex," and then you play it, and then be like, "Alex sent me a shitty record." So I just, but just know I'm thinking of you, and that's the important thing. Um, let's see. Any other fun things been lately? All right, let's do some Ohio Connection stuff. I had heard of this band. I think they put out a number of records, but I think their main songwriter and guitarist went on to do more stuff as just like a solo guitarist. And I think he became like a kind of like born again Christian, really dedicated his life to like more Christian related music. I believe I could be making that up or mixing him up with somebody else, but I think that's it. But I had no idea that these cats were from Ohio and specifically from Youngstown, and curious if anybody else has listened to them. And that is Glass Harp. So Phil Keggy was kind of guitarist, main songwriter, I believe. Also did vocals. This is their debut. They were on, I guess, MCA, but was it more, I guess, Decca at the time? I think, yeah. You know, that classic for the label people out there, got to see that classic Decca rainbow, you know, sort of thing. But yeah, cool band. I don't see a ton of people showing Glass Harp records. But again, Phil Keggy went on to do a ton of like individual solo guitar work. And I think he did become like a born again Christian. I believe, Sam, I don't know if you're still watching or if you're still eating pizza or whatever you're doing out there. That's I'm sorry, Steve. You're totally right. I gotta watch that. Everybody's a cat. I don't see a lot of people talking about Glass Harp. So Sam, I think a couple of weeks ago, he received some CDs, I believe, from Edward down at Prague Hat, and it came with it either one or two or a couple, I forget, Phil Keggy CDs. And so it was interesting. He knew about Phil Keggy from like his solo work, or at least knew of him. But interesting. I think this came out in 1970, maybe. It was pretty early. But yeah, just really cool, kind of part of that Youngstown sound, which I've become really, I think, kind of really fond of, right? I mean, y'all who know me know I'm a big Blue Ash fan. They're out of Youngstown. Poobah, the great Poobah, they're out of Youngstown. Left End, another super killer hard rock band from the 70s. They're out of Youngstown. I mean, Youngstown has got a crazy cool epic music scene from back in the day. So yeah, I mean, nothing crazy special here. This is kind of you know, it's rock, it's a little bit of pop, a little bit of prog here and there, very inoffensive, I would say. But some cool stuff for sure. I mean, back cover there, you know, I mean, that's rock and roll as can be. So yeah, Glass Harp, a very, very cool Ohio band. Let's catch up here. Men Without Hats. Are they? I mean, they are very, very popular because of Safety Dance here. But oh, see, there you go. I'll be honest with you, I still love Safety Dance. I mean, I cannot lie. I think that is one of the funnest, dumbest songs of all time. Ohio Players is great. Bootsy. I know I'm using these cats too much. It's true. Yeah, I'd say Light Psych. Yeah, it's not like out there trippy type stuff, but it's good, sort of the time psychedelic, poppy, rocky, proggy type stuff. Yeah. Oh, Richard, please tell me more. That's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, trying to. I mean, they would not be a band that would be on my radar if they weren't from Ohio. Truthfully, so yeah, there's that. Billy Idol hat. Oh man, and Billy Idol is still tossing out those signed paper plates, which I do still say is the best way to go about throwing out autographs. Man, is the way he does it. Sign a bunch of paper plates and just toss them out to people. Hey Rob, what's happening, man? Let me know if you want to come up and hang out, my brother man. It's just me up here getting pretty lonely. Hope your water's doing okay too. Everybody saying hi to each other, all the different stuff. Dave, I didn't know you're from Marion. I was born in Marion. I was born in the Marion Hospital, so I actually grew up. My first place I grew up, I guess like I was at ages like 0 to 3 was Montgilead. But I believe at the time, Marion Hospital was the closest hospital. So I always say like I was born in Marion. So yeah, that's dope. I didn't know you were from up that way. Yes, be like I would get the team together, like all the people who have all who have the signed paper plates. I think it's great. Do you frame a paper plate? Like what do you do with it, right? Like does it just like you just like nail it to the wall? Do you frame it? Like I'm curious what you did with your paper plate, Emma. For the love of God, someone help us. I'm done inviting people. I'm just done. Yeah, well, we'll keep it going until I'm already going about 0 for 40. So, but that's my life. So that is how it goes. All right, so there's like your glass harp, classic Ohio, good stuff. Oh, what else? That away, put that away. Okay. Well, here's a fun one, and Emma, I know Emma's here. This is a shout out to Emma. This was part of the. I still have this out because it's a heavy rotations. Maybe I'll use this for the summer vinyl tag when they're talking about a heavy pull. But this is a shout out to Emma because this was part of the haul of free records she gave me. She had some records when I was out visiting her, and she was like, I'm just going to like trade these in or whatever, but feel free to go through them and take what you want. And I saw this and I was like, that looks interesting. That's a terrible cover. I know that one song they did, but you know what? I will give them a shot. And to Emma's credit, she was like, it's actually a really good record. And so I took it home, listened to it, and I was blown away. I'm gonna do a whole ass video on this of like, this is a live record that blew my shorts off in the worst and best way possible. And that is Head East live. Yeah, let's all take a moment and just, I don't know what's going on here. I'm sure Steve's into that sort of thing, oh, look at them legs, or whatever, however he talks. But Head East live. Okay, so Head East is from Illinois, another Illinois band. In fact, I believe they formed I think they formed in college. A number of them were studying at the University of Illinois, and then I think their drummer was from Eastern Illinois University. But formed then, they were really known because they had the hits. Never Been Any Reason, Save My Life, I'm Going Down for the Last Time. Like that hit was everywhere. And I remember hearing that all over the radio and thinking, this is a cool jam, right? Like this is awesome. I also forgot, this is where I have some beers and start making really weird musical references. Y'all know that thing where there's certain things that there's like certain like fat man sports that you get better at the more tipsy you get until you get to that point of like no return, then it goes down, right? So like pool, right? Billiards, like there's that certain element of tipsiness that you just become like the expert pool player. You're actually getting better at pool. And then you hit that point where you're like, oh, I'm fucked, right? Like it's no good. Bowling is the same way. Like you just a little bit tipsy, an amazing bowler. Trivia is kind of that way too, right? Like you just like unlock this like other sort of thing. Trivia, not so much for me. But just horrible, stupid references. For the longest time, I thought Head East and Go West were the same band, right? Wasn't Go West the what's the name? Before someone's gonna jump in the stupid comments here. The Go West song of I'm the what is it called? Somebody help me out here. The King of Wishful Thinking. Thank you. As before anybody jumped in. I'm the King of Wishful Thinking. It's the I'll get over you. I know I will. I better take my life so again. Yes. Okay. First of all, an amazing song. King of Wishful Thinking, Go West. But for the longest time, I thought Go West and Head East were the same band. The same reason, the same way, I thought the Verve and the Verve Pipe were the same band. Shit, it was like 6 years ago. I thought they were the same people, and I always thought it was really weird. I was like, boy, they really changed their sound between Bittersweet Symphony and the Freshmen. Anyway, Head East, they were one of these sort of bands that was huge in the Midwest, especially in Illinois. Steve, I'm curious from your perspective how they were up in the Chicagoland area in terms of their popularity. But like, it's so funny because Never Been Any Reason to Save My Life, still a banger, still an amazing song. I love that song. It sounds nothing like the rest of their catalog. This is a badass, hard rocking, like Midwest rock and roll hard rock record, like full on. I've played this so many times. Like this is like my Friday night record. It's so good. It is so good. Again, terrible cover. I don't know what's going on there. Show you the gatefold. Look at that. Okay, like, well, this is a terrible gatefold, but important though. I mean, these guys are rock stars for sure, right? I mean, look at these cats, meowskers. Yeah, I mean, literally. And my guess, I mean, this is like a $3 record. Like, if you trust me on this, if you can find this out there, buy this record. If you're like me and all you know is Never Been Any Reason, and you're like, it's a fine song, it's a great song. Cool, great. They do play it, but like, that's it. Like, this is a crazy good album. Buy it, love it. You'll thank me later. We got more people in the house. Okay. Oh, very cool. Okay. Born in Findlay, grew up in Marion. Cool. Very familiar with Findlay. Man, Steve, I got to go to B. I think they're in Cincinnati is going to be their closest area to me. That's going to be something I'm going to have to find a way to go to. Just because that's a once in a lifetime thing and I'll travel for once in a lifetime type stuff. That's awesome, Chris. They're coming outside of Dayton, which is about 50 or so minutes for me. To get to see Testament with Creator. It's Testament, Creator, and I think one more band, isn't it? I know I think it's a triple bill. I think there's one other. Is it Morbid Angel? Maybe. I think it's another like Bay Area thrash band. I think is part of that. I could be wrong though. Yeah, Dave, Head East was awesome. That's good stuff. Great. Thank you, Gary. Man, Gary, you're usually my hype man, but I'm on mute now. I mean, most people got other stuff going on, so. Yeah. Look, the REO live record's great too, man. That record rocks. Absolutely rocks. Everybody's saying hi to Gary because everybody loves Gary. Yeah, Go West, the British techno band. I'm over you. I know I will. Oh, it was in Pretty Woman. Okay. Yeah, I know it was a huge song. Elliot Cruz is here. Elliot, what's up, my friend? Hope you're doing well down there in North Carolina. Come on, raise up. Yes. Yeah, people watch Emma's or tag video. I thought it was about to be her dig video. Both of which were just great and full of success, obviously. So great stuff. Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. I don't know anybody who's showed Head East live in the vinyl community anytime soon. Never Be a Reason that was it. They always second or third on the bill. Yeah, well, you know, I guess that's how it goes sometimes, right? Oh, interesting. The Pier. The Pier. That sounds like a cool place. Was it a pier? Was it actually a pier? It sounds like, I mean, in those times, it was probably like more of like a dive bar, right? I don't know. Dan Goucher's here. What's up, Dan? Good to see you. Glad you're here. You're always a fun man for great comments. There you go. Vinyl Piper sub to Emma. She needs the subscribers, guys. I mean, Emma does need the subscribers. As you know, she's not been doing this that long. New channel, growing. So yeah, go do that if you have not done that already. Wow, how wholesome, Gary. How wholesome. Love that for you. Yeah, more Olympics. Again, I wish I was watching the Olympics right now, but everybody loves Gary. It's true. Everybody loves Gary. Elliot here. All right. It has to be Getting Lucky. Okay. Have to look out. Yeah. I mean, they might be a band. I mean, I could check out. I can't imagine their studio stuff is more than a few bucks. So it's not like it's a big investment to get in their stuff. They seem like a type of band for me. And this is without any sort of documentation or evidence. I'm just speaking out of my stupid asshole. But they seem like the type of band for me that the live versions of the songs are when they come alive the most. Like that just kind of that's how it sort of goes for me. Chuck T is here. What's up, Chuck T? Talking about Billy Strings. All right, Chris, let's go. All right. Ohio Players have a great version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's so soulful. So I will tell you this. I know he's on mute, so he's not going to hear me, but Gary, Physical Format Rock and Roll, is a huge Ohio Players fan. I have, is it Honey? I think I have 2 or 3 Ohio Players records. Honey, I don't know where I'm looking. I guess it's back there, but that's not going to tell me anything. But I think it's Honey because it's just like honey dripping all over some women on the front, right? I mean, it's a great record, man. I do need to like dedicate myself to the Ohio Players just for that fun stuff. So I did not go see them. I should have done. Let's see. Alex Shapiro is a rally club that had all the national and regional acts back in the 70s and 80s. Nice mid-sized club. Oh, man. Let's see. Observation in Time. That's the name of that record? I'll have to go. Okay. Look, you're right. I got to go figure that out. Man. All right. I'm going to do this. If anybody has, since I am not comfortable just throwing the link out there to the public because I see how YouTube works. And the way my blood pressure set up, I ain't got time for it. If anybody's interested at all in joining, please shoot me an email. I'll get you this link if you are so worthy. Kind of, but not really, but kind of. I love Wild Cherry, man. I mean, obviously they were the huge play the funky music, but yeah, they were actually, I mean, they're from around this area too. I think Akron they call home, or there was actually, when I was growing up, and Dave, this might mean something to you, Dave the pickup artist, not Wyoming Dave. My first like home was Tuscarawas County in Ohio, which is kind of known as Amish country, like low key. Like I still lived in a town, and it wasn't like I was like riding buggies and shit to school, but I was going to school with some Mennonites who did that. But anyways, when I was growing up, they had said Wild Cherry was actually from New Philadelphia, which was like the major city outside of where I grew up, and by major city, I mean probably had like 15,000 people. And so then it was like one of those things of like, well, are they actually from New Philadelphia? Or are they just going to say they're from Canton or from Akron or whatever sort of thing? So, such is life in that way. But, all right, hold on 1 second here. I'm going to have to pause for station identification. Not really, but let's see. If I do that little thing. Boom and boom. Get that going. Righty then. Okay, cool. So yeah, Wild Cherry is cool. They're great. There was another. I'll be seeing Flaming Lips in September. I am a Flaming Lips fan. I'm not sure if I know their copy of that. You got it, man. You got the link, man. I'll text you by second new for B takes on this one. Ooh, sir. Now you're speaking some of my language. You're speaking my language, Steve. Yeah, I should get into them. Kyle's here. What's up, Kyle? This is crazy. I have like 4 things live right now on the stream. Oh yeah, so you got +3 playing stuff on your phone, but none of them in the Olympics. Like everybody else has got the Olympics going on, but we got 4 things. I will tell you this, Kyle. I bought, because of you, sir, because of you, I bought Handful of Rain from Sabotage because I know that ranked high in your progressive metal list. So great record. I do enjoy it. And obviously Alex Skolnick is just the beast. So there's that. But please, everybody, welcome to the stage all the way from Poughkeepsie, New York City. It is Chris Brophy, Musically Obsessed.
What's up?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
Dude, I got to crack a beer since you're drinking, but I got a little Narragansett, actually.
Oh, well, I mean, that's you got to play the part, my friend. You got to play the part.
Oh, all you young kids tonight hanging out.
Well, I don't know about you, Chris. When you get to my age, you'll understand this.
Yeah.
It's like Saturday rolls around, and sometimes people ask me questions, and they're like, "What are you getting into tonight?" or something, and I'm like, "What?" Like I don't get into things,
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, I'm usually falling asleep on the couch by like 9 o'clock, so this is actually past my bedtime.
wow, I'm impressed. Now, are you on summer vacation from your job, which
Yeah,
is going to be returning soon, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I teach fifth grade, so
Okay.
I'm on summer break right now, and we go back the Tuesday after Labor Day. So,
Oh, that's pretty late, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, so we've got we got more time, which is nice, but it's I like summer break, but then for me, my personality, it's always tough getting back into that school routine again after being off for 2 months. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's my personality. It's sort of, I would almost prefer maybe like that 2 weeks on or 2 weeks off every once in a while, like a year long sort of schedule. But I don't know. I guess it would eat into vacation plans and things like that. But again, I'm not complaining. It's just strange sometimes.
Yeah. We got Dan, I appreciate the transparency here. I mean, you're out there in British Columbia area, so I totally understand. How close Pennsylvania to Ohio? Well, it's a bordering state, so they are right next to each other. Dan was sort of saying, I think Ohio River separates them, if my geography memory is correct. Yeah, kind of up there, but Ohio River more or less will separate Ohio from some of the more southern states like Kentucky and West Virginia. But also, there's a weird patch of, they actually do call it the Panhandle, a weird patch of southeastern Ohio that really borders like Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So, yeah, there's your Ohio geography that you didn't ask. Well, I guess he asked for it. So,
I'm so bummed that I missed hanging out with all you guys a couple weeks ago.
I would have assumed, because you're only 3 or so hours from Boston.
Yeah, I'm like 3.5 hours from Josh in New Bedford.
Okay.
And I've been to Purchase Street Records quite a few times. I was at Purchase Street Records back in the old location as well.
Okay.
I know Jeff Witcher and I were there with Josh, and the weekend that you guys all got together, I got together with some fraternity brothers. So it ended up being a fun weekend, but it was sort of like, I just wish it wasn't on the same weekend.
Interesting. So you had like a fraternity reunion situation.
Yeah, where we went to Vermont and basically just hung out and drank beer the whole time.
I mean, do you mind asking me your affiliation, or are you okay sharing that?
My fraternity?
Yeah,
it's Delta Chi. And
you're Delta Chi, right?
The same fraternity that Kevin Costner is in.
Sure. Yes.
I used that as a pickup line in college, and it didn't work.
I'm shocked. Of course, those days you'd be like, "Did you see his bare ass in Dances with Wolves?" Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I'm fraternity brothers with Kevin Costner, and they would walk away. So.
Yeah. Well, not to go too much into my professional work, although people could probably just Google me on LinkedIn and they would find out. But my professional work over the last 10 to 12 years has been explicitly in the fraternity and sorority sphere. So,
okay.
So very, very familiar with that world. So when someone said that, I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Where'd you go to undergrad?
SUNY Fredonia, which is up near Buffalo.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's funny because my daughter's going there now.
Oh, very cool.
She just finished her freshman year of college, and it's just crazy to think that I have, first of all, that I have a daughter in college, but also a daughter that's going to the same college that I went to. So
it makes homecoming a ton of fun, though.
Yeah, she's like, Dad, we went to this bar BJ's, and I'm like, oh yeah, we used to go there all the time, and it starts to flood back to you.
Do you go into like protective dad mode about that or no?
No, I mean, I like the relationship I have with my kids. It's definitely more open than I had with my own parents.
Yep.
And what I like about it is that my kids are really into music as well. So like she'll be talking to me and we're both on Spotify or whatever. And when we're in the car, we kind of pass around the phone and we all share songs. And she's like, Dad, she's like, I was listening to Mob Rules today by Black Sabbath. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, Dad, you got to get me more into Led Zeppelin. And I'm like, I'm totally there.
Like, I'm so proud of you.
I've been waiting for this. And like a little tear is coming down my cheek.
Like, we could do that. We could do that. Yeah.
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 But yeah. And then my son, he's a freaking awesome guitar player. He plays piano as well. He's right now obsessed with anything Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
So he's listening to Smile and, Smiley Smile and Pet Sounds and all that, and just everything that has to do with Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys.
I mean, there's a good place in the vinyl community, in the YouTube and vinyl community for that, right? Like,
yeah.
I also feel there's a lot of people on YouTube who do this YouTube thing that are also teachers. I'm surprised you all don't have like a support group on the side of like you and Emma and Tony and Elliot and all these.
Well, what's funny is I saw Emma on here before and I noticed she was making more videos than she used to. And I was like, oh yeah, because she's off for the summer.
Right. Yeah.
Because, I used to like to watch her videos, but then it was like one every like month or something.
Right. Yeah.
And all of us teachers now are off. So we're making more videos. Which I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know.
Well, and we'll see how prolific everybody is, when school starts back up and through the winter and that sort of stuff. But yeah. That's awesome though. Hey, I'll hold the phone. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hello, YouTube. How are you? I can't see like comments coming in or anything. I guess that's all on Alex's end. But
all right. Just needed more beer. It's fine.
Yeah. So how's the Michelob Ultra treating you?
Oh, I'm so glad you got that. It's fine. It is what it is. Here's the problem with it. It's expensive. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, yes. Is it a 6-pack is $9.99.
Yeah.
A 12-pack, I think it's maybe like $15.99. Right. So like, but I'm used to like when I would buy like that stupid PBR and it was like it's like 6 tall boys.
Yeah.
6 tall boys was $6.99.
Yeah.
So
well, it's so funny because when we were in college, we drank shit beer. And now I feel like all the kids in college are drinking like the IPAs and all that madness. I mean, we were trying to find the cheapest rock gut beer that there was.
That's right. I tell the story of that. We had a little carryout place. I went to Bowling Green State University, Northwest Ohio.
Yeah.
Pretty big party school just because it's a college town. There's nothing to do there, but it's like 50 bars within half a mile of campus. Like it's all you could do is party. And I remember, this was back in 2011, 12. A 30 rack at this carryout place called Bobby's. A 30 rack of Natty Light was $13.99.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get pretty toasty on that. So definitely.
Yeah. Maybe. But oh man, we love Blatz. Blatz and Hams, Stroh's.
Yeah. Schlitz.
Oh yeah, I guess working on Schlitz. That's right.
What else? Oh well, I went to school up near Rochester, New York, so there was a lot of Jenny Light being.
Jenny Light, yeah, you're in the land of Genesee, man.
Yeah, we'd have a lot of the Canadian beers too, so people would bring like Molson or Labatt Blue.
Oh yeah,
things like that as well.
Yeah.
But,
no, I did not, Gary. Sorry, not. What do you got a Narragansett?
Narragansett? Yeah.
Okay. No rat. Narragansett. But that's different than what I usually see.
And supposedly this is their limited edition 1975 can.
So it's the same. Okay, it's just like the standard thing, but it's a different can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really know too much about the beer. I've had it a few times when I've been out, and I kind of like the retro can.
Very cool.
So I was like, all right, let's do this. But yeah, this is the first live thing I've been on in a while because my main man, Jeff Witcher, we all used to do that with Gary and Josh and Aaron. And I think all of our schedules just got crazy packed and we just haven't been able to do it in a while.
Yeah, because you were doing our thing on like every other Thursday night, maybe for a little bit there, weren't you?
Yeah, we were doing it was at one time almost every Thursday night.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I think schedules just got crazy. I think it's tough during the work week sometimes to get together on a Thursday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've been having this conversation with some people too, and you know, obviously sort of the opposite for the teachers, but I think summer is a tough time too. You know, it's like there's a reason that, you know, sitcoms are off the air most of the time over the summer. Like,
Yeah.
People are out doing things. There's baseball, there's the Olympics, there's people are hanging out by the pool all night. Like,
Right.
there's a different sense of you know, oh man, this is tough to do every week. You know, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
But obviously that's better for teachers. But you know, opposed to the winter when it's like, yeah, like the weather sucks. Like we just like being home, and people are homing on YouTube, right? It kind of makes sense.
Well, and you know, I got started with this whole YouTube thing around the time of COVID.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were all home and there was nothing to do but make videos and watch videos. So I felt like, you know, my channel started to grow pretty quickly because everybody was home watching these stupid ass videos that we were all making. But I feel like now, and it's a good thing, there's so many VC channels now, which is awesome. But I know for myself, I can't keep up with everybody's channel. Like back when I first started, there weren't that many. I mean, there were a lot, but not as many as there are now. So I love, and I know a lot of people think this, like we all love how it's grown so much, but it's so hard to keep up with everybody's channels.
Yeah. And I was going to say, you know, you and I think Emma, and of course, Emma and I mean, we've talked a lot about this too. You know, sort of, it's weird to think of like, oh, you've been doing this since COVID. Like you're old in like the VC world, right? Like, because I think especially my guess would be is, and I fall into this, is that a lot of people got into records, myself included, during COVID.
Yeah.
And so it was something to do for me. It was like, I need a hobby and something that keeps me home and entertained. And you know, I caught the bug. And then that led into, you know, watching people and all those different things. But it's interesting too, though, because I think there's a lot of people from dare I say your generation, no, like the people who've been doing this for 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been now, that, you know, have ebbed and flowed in terms of making videos and releasing videos, and people come and they go, or they rebrand channels, or, you know, all those different things too.
Right.
And so I'm curious, of all these new channels, myself included, over the last year or two or whatever it's been, you know, how much of us is like, oh, that was a really fun thing to do for 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
Versus like, no, it's hard to keep doing this and making content consistently.
Yeah.
For 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make as many videos as I used to. There were some days back when I first started where I made like maybe 3 videos in a day.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I still make quite a few videos, but I don't make nearly as many as I used to.
Yeah.
And then once September hits, it'll go down even from there. But I don't know. It's sort of like it's just fun for me. So like when the mood strikes me, I get on and do something, and I really, it's almost just like, you know, just press record on my phone and whatever happens. It's not really, I do write some notes from here to or there, but for the most part, it's just like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
and I make mistakes too. Like somebody, I posted an Aerosmith short today,
Yeah.
and I showed my Aerosmith CD collection, and I think I put the wrong order in there, and someone's like, "Oh no, Rocks goes here," and I'm like, "Dude, chill." I was just kind of throwing them together, and but some people are so passionate where it's like if you make that little mistake, they just jump on it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's one of those like it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? Like we're gonna say something, and yeah.
Yeah, like I showed my Iron Maiden collection, and I can't tell you how many people said, "But you don't have Made in Japan on CD." I'm like, I know I don't have that. I have it on cassette, but why are you getting your panties in a bunch? Because I didn't show Made in Japan. But,
well, I mean, but then you also do have those bands that those are the types of fans they have, and I think Iron Maiden is one of those bands.
Yeah, it's funny. I just
like,
but that's the thing when you have a YouTube channel, and you got to put up with the crap too.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Greg's here. Greg, you're in Pittsburgh. Hello across the way over here in Columbus. I think how long we discover value, quality over quantity, and making video. Well, here's what's interesting. I think this is like I don't know if it's the elephant in the room, but like I don't watch every single video of every single subscriber person I'm subscribed to. I just don't, and because I don't have time, or or maybe I'm not interested, and that's okay too. Like, what I mean? Like, I think that some people have done a really great job of modeling the way of like, I watch other people's videos, I comment on those videos, I like those videos, I do all those different things, and that's amazing and incredible. But I don't know that that is a reasonable expectation for every single person. And I think that's like, I don't think it's a matter of like whether or not I like you or support you or any of those different things. And and sometimes I think too of like the commenting sometimes is almost just like it's just proof that I watched it, right? There's a ton of videos that I'm watching when I'm like, laying in bed at 3 a.m. and I can't sleep, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder what Chris is up to these days. But I always joke, like sometimes like I don't have the inspiration to do the typical like, hey Chris, I love how you showed that one record. I also love that one record. Cheers. Oh, rock and roll, man. But you're right. I mean, there are so many channels, and there's so many new channels, and you make a great point of like this should be an inclusive community that is open to people, and we would support people who had this idea and all those different things. And that also means like, gosh, sometimes you're going to be subscribed to 100 and some channels or whatever it is, and you can't watch and keep up with all of them, especially if they're putting out content every single day, or those videos are 40 minutes long, or that kind of thing.
Well, that was one thing that I try to do too. I try to keep my videos shorter. Like I usually try to go around 5 minutes. And, that's on average. Of course, I'll go a little bit more or a little bit less, but, I try to keep things short.
Yeah.
Because I just know people, you don't have the time to watch everybody's videos.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think also, and this is, I mean, I always be careful here because I don't want to make it seem like I've been doing this for very long, because I haven't. But, as someone who is a longtime viewer of a lot of channels and is now like a peer to a lot of these channels or whatever, or these people, like, I don't think there's a magic bullet the way that a lot of people have sort of claimed that there is. I think it depends on who the person is and what works out best for them, right? And so I think sometimes there's people who are like being a little bit like overly dramatic and overly thinking this of like, how do I make content that people love? Like, what do I need to do? And I'll be like, well, what you should do is watch Chris Profi's videos or Josh over the JC Flipside Valve community, because those videos are short, they're to the point, they're ready to go, all those different things. And then it's like, well, I could totally understand and see that. But also like some of the biggest YouTubers in the world, like their whole thing is like, no, like I make long form lecture style videos that have worked overwhelmingly good for that person. And I think the advice is, well, what works out for you as an individual based on what you enjoy and what you enjoy watching, and opposed to, I mean, to me, it's like, subscribers and views and all that kind of stuff is a result,
Right.
but it's not the goal. You know, I don't think anybody's like, I want to start a YouTube channel because I want a whole bunch of subscribers and I want 100,000 views on my videos. Like,
yeah. Well, here's what's funny. I didn't even realize I had a YouTube channel in the beginning. I mean, I knew I was on YouTube, but my first couple of videos were just me playing my guitar.
Oh yeah.
And because my friends like, oh, you should get on YouTube and, you know, play your guitar. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I made my first couple of videos were just me and my guitar. And then I happened to show some CDs of this punk band I like. And then I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. And then I started watching a few other videos. And I don't know, it just kind of went from there. But I didn't really even know what I was doing in the beginning. You know?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like, I feel like there's no magic. You can't shake the magic 8-ball and it's not going to tell you what to do. You have to do what comes natural for you. And, you know, I think it just comes down to what are you passionate about? Like, for me, if I'm listening to the Moody Blues in the morning, I go, oh, you know what? I'm going to make a video about the Moody Blues. And I'm like, I really don't give a crap who watches it.
Yeah.
But anybody who would watch it, I would hope that they would pick up on like, hey, this dude is passionate about the Moody Blues, whether you like him or not. You know, I've done videos on Rod McEwen and people are like, Rod McEwen sucks. I'm like, all right, whatever. But, you know, but then I watch other videos where you can kind of just tell, you know, random people that I don't know, like you can just tell that they're really not into what they're doing. And you just click off because it comes down to the passion. It doesn't really come down to what you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah.
And that comes across on the screen too.
I've often said that, and this is true for a lot of things in life, politics, you know, sales, whatever.
Yeah.
Rarely is it about the dish; it's about the waiter.
Yeah,
and it is so much of like, I mean, that's like some of the biggest, you know, YouTube channels out there. Like, we'll throw it out there because, you know, he's huge and people love him or whatever sort of thing. But like, you know, it was like half the shit that like someone like Mazzy or whatever was talking about for the longest time. I didn't have a freaking clue who or what he was talking about. No idea. 99% of, you know, Scott's subscribers over at the Prog Corner have no idea who these progressive rock bands from Norway are.
Right.
You know, but they love, but he's excited. He's wild. You know, he's fun. He's passionate, and people hook on to that. And they say, you know what, I like him, so I'm going to listen to or look into what he likes.
Right.
Because, you know, it's like a human connection thing, right?
Yeah. And I find what's cool too is most everybody that I'm subscribed to, I have a feeling that if I met them in person, that's what they would be like, because Aaron Mutha Alamer, Jeff Witcher, JC, Brandon. Well, I've never met Brandon in person, but Gary, all of those guys. Well, you know, you've met some of these guys too. Yeah. They're all the same as they are on screen. Like none of us that I know of is putting on an air, you know. And I have a feeling like if you ask JC or Jeff, they've been to my house, or Jeff has been to my place. Josh is coming in October, but we've met face to face. I'm sure that they would probably say, yeah, Chris is pretty much the same as he is when you're just talking to him on screen. So that's what I think is cool too.
1,000%. You know, it's funny. I was talking to a lot to Sam St. John because he wasn't able to make it to Boston, but he was asking the same thing. Jason Arsenal, who's up in British Columbia, wasn't able to make it to Boston, but they were like, man, Alex, like, what was it like meeting all those people?
Yeah.
And I didn't have much to say because every single person I met in Boston to a T was exactly how they showed up on camera.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things of like, you know, someone would be like, "Oh, what's so and so like in person?" And I'm like, exactly how they are on camera.
Yeah.
Like that's just exactly how they are on camera.
And it's funny, I always get a little starstruck around people. Like when I first met JC, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is JC from the Flip Side," and like we're going to Purchase Street Records, and I was like, "Oh my god," like, you know what I mean? And then you just realize that, hey, we're just all normal guys.
Yeah. Well, funny, we must have picked the wrong week to go because I was actually thinking about texting Josh and being like, so if you go to Purchase Street, because they're doing like Roger's doing like
$15 records.
$15 metal records, 10 for 10 or 10
Yeah.
for 100.
Yeah. I got to stop buying so many freaking records, Alex. I told you I was trying to purge some, and then this weekend I just bought 3 Pantera records, their early albums.
Oh, well,
Pre Phil Anselmo.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I know you
bought that. I bought that freaking Black Sabbath box set, the Tony Martin thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I gotta slow down here. But it's crazy. I've got like 4,000 CDs.
Every day, Emma. Every day.
I can't read these comments. What are people saying?
You can't read these?
No, I need new glasses. I'm getting old.
Oh, I thought you just couldn't see it. Okay, I thought you. Yeah.
No, it's really small. I need new glasses.
Emma said Alex got starstruck around me. He still does.
Well,
and she is correct, and as always, she is correct. Yeah, very, very true. Well,
I'm gonna be 50 in October. That's why I got to get these glasses changed.
Well, we know it's all for fashion. You don't actually need the glasses; they just make you look.
Yeah, this is all just part of the look.
Yes, Wyoming Dave says Chris is a sexy bald guy. LOL.
Oh,
you're welcome.
Well, thank you. Maybe he could pass that around to some single ladies if he knows any.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know some single guys, I'm sure. So yeah, there's some good stuff. Okay, so yeah, Greg, you got to meet Tony P because I know he's out Pittsburgh way, and Steve. Man, I would love to meet Steve Carlson.
Oh yeah.
He just man, now, I feel like
he's out in Colorado right now, right?
Yeah, he was in Michigan for the longest time, and now he's out in like the greater Denver area.
I used to live in Colorado, actually.
You did? Where'd you?
Yeah,
like Denver or what?
Yeah, I lived in Longmont, which is near Boulder.
Yes.
And before that, I lived in Arizona. And then before that, I actually lived in the area that I'm living in now. So, like Johnny Cash says, I've been everywhere.
Longmont. So Longmont, Colorado. What is the brewery there?
I have no idea.
There's a big one there. That's the only reason I know about it. I know. Of course there is. Where were you in Arizona?
Tucson.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, I've seen a lot of the country. I've seen Mount Rushmore. I've seen the Grand Canyon. I've been out to California. We drove down into Mexico.
Yeah.
Everything. I've seen a little bit of everything. Driven through Wyoming. Not much to see when you're driving through Wyoming, but it's still pretty country out there.
Yeah. I guess it was over 10 years ago now. Back in 2013 when I was in college, I got the opportunity to do a service trip over the summer, actually through my fraternity, where we started in Seattle, Washington, and ended in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And it was about 2.5 months. And each day I was supporting a team of cyclists. And so each day, we would help them cycle through however many, anywhere from 50 to 150 miles a day. Right. We would essentially camp out in like a local church or high school or something like that. And then we would have what they call friendship visits, which would be like a whole bunch of us going and hanging out at like a local organization that was focused on usually kids with disabilities. So we work with like a lot of Special Olympics and like ARCs and organizations like that. And so, but it was like a pretty bare bones operation because it's a fundraiser, right? So like you were sleeping in free places.
Yeah.
And packing for a whole summer with just like a duffel bag. But I like getting the chance to see all of Washington State, going through Montana, down through Wyoming, into Colorado. Yeah. I mean, literally the best and worst parts of the country. It's like Colorado is hilarious because it's like, yeah, we were in Colorado Springs, we were in Boulder, we were in Denver, but we were also in Lamar. Okay. I don't know if you've ever been to Lamar, Colorado.
I have not, no.
Or Pueblo, for the Colorado people out there. Curious your thoughts on Lamar and Pueblo, but yeah, seeing those areas it's just the coolest. Yeah, we got Colorado Springs represent.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff happening. Mountains are great. You're in Aurora, Richard. Okay.
There's so much more of this country I want to see, and that's that's what I'd like to do when I retire, is just kind of, I've never been to Nashville before. I've never been to Nolens before. I'd like to go Route 66, and I don't know. There's so many things.
Oh,
I've never been to Chicago.
really? Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of places within the country I'd like to see.
Yeah. The big ones for me, I mean, I'm fortunate that I have a job that allows me to travel as part of work. I mean, I don't have a job that supports me financially enough that I can travel. I have a job that I can make personal trips out of work trips. That makes sense.
Right.
So, getting a chance to see like the Grand Canyon, or, last September, I got a chance to go to Arizona. I've had a chance to do Sedona about 3 times now, which is just nothing like Sedona.
Yeah.
Nothing like I was able to drive up to Page, Arizona, which is where Horseshoe Bend and Antelope Canyon is. And like, you see these parts of the world and you're like, wow, like Columbus and Poughkeepsie, like,
yeah,
we got some trees,
Yeah, that's why I'll be interested to see. Like I said, Josh is going to be hopefully visiting in October. I'll be interested to see what he thinks of the area. I'll take him to Dark Side Records, which is the big record store around here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always fun to bring people into your neck of the woods.
Oh, for sure.
I'd like to hang out with Sam St. John at some point too, because I feel like he and I could just be playing guitars.
Oh, absolutely. That's how you would spend the whole time, just playing guitars and talking about the Monkees.
Oh, yeah.
Fellow Nesmith fan. All Media Reviews podcast. He's a huge Monkees fan, but he admits that he married into that fandom. But yeah.
I've loved the Monkees since I was a kid.
Yeah. Gary says, isn't everyone a Nesmith fan? Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, Gary and I share a lot of the same music. He and I are really into country music. And I don't know how popular real country music is in the VC, but
define real country, Chris.
I'm thinking like Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, George Strait,
Luke Bryan,
Alan Jackson. No, not Luke Bryan. Just like real, like twangy, pedal steel guitar, Porter Wagner, Dolly Parton, even like the 80s country, like Kathy Mattea and, all those, Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
I feel like, and nothing, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything negative about country music now, but to me, it's more just like Southern rock.
Mm.
It's not, I listened to it, and if it didn't have a singer with an accent, like a Southern accent, I wouldn't think it was country music.
Fascinating. Okay.
That's just my opinion. Like when you listen to a Buck Owens song, right from the beginning, it's a country song. Just with the arrangement.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but again, country music, like any music, they're always trying to push the envelope. I mean, look at Dolly Parton. She was doing songs like Islands in the Stream and 9 to 5, and those weren't technically traditional country songs, but
no.
What's good about it is it opens up other people to say, hey, you know what, maybe I kind of do like country music a little bit. And then maybe they'll go and delve and check out some other stuff too.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like from a country perspective, I'm curious how this corresponds maybe to other genres, but it's funny you mentioning that, because at least for me growing up, my interpretation of country was, what sort of has become like, what they would call bro country, right? Like it was, God, when I was 11 or 12, like when I was growing up again, country was Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
Was Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah, that was the 90s.
Rascal Flats. Yeah. There was no the sort of like outlaw type stuff that I hear a lot about now. Like, and so that was just my interpretation, and I fucking hated it. And I think what it's done is it's created that sort of ill-informed perception from me that's like I just grew up with that music, and I was like, I think this is like this whole song. She thinks my tractor's sexy. This is the dumbest, shittiest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And therefore, anytime I hear people talk about actual, real, what you're kind of getting at, country, I almost have like a reaction to it, because that was my understanding of what country was this type of stuff.
I don't know why I'm so drawn to it. And for me, like, the more traditional sounding instruments and country and twang and bluegrassy type stuff, like, the more I'm into it. So, but I don't know where that came from, because growing up, I listened to metal. Like, I was like Anthrax, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Slayer. But then I think back, my parents were always listening to Dolly Parton. My parents were listening to Kenny Rogers. My parents listened to the Beatles. The Beatles covered Act Naturally by Buck Owens. So I think country was kind of all up in my head, and I didn't realize it was there. And I always like songs about trains, and I think that that's why I'm sort of drawn to Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it must have just been something in me from when I was a kid, and eventually it just came out.
Now, here's the question for you, and apologize to the viewers out there, because I want to get to some of these comments too.
Yeah.
Are you a Tom Waits guy?
I like Tom Waits. I mean, JC is a huge Tom Waits guy.
Right.
And he sent me a couple records of him. I like early Tom Waits, where like he wasn't doing the whole growling thing.
Yeah, not
like his first couple records, it's almost like him by a piano.
Yeah, right.
And I like that. I'm not saying I don't like his growl. It's just I'm more drawn to the songs where he's actually singing.
Yeah, not the drunken sailor type of stuff, right?
Yeah, I like a little bit of that, but I don't know. I feel like for me, it takes away from the song a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Green chili, they got the best. I could totally see them having some great green chili. Yeah. And again, this was 11 years ago when I was in Pueblo, Colorado. So, I just want to catch up before.
Yeah.
We continue, because I do have a good question for you. All right. Chris needs to listen to Margo Price.
Oh, you know what? I think Gary sent me a Margo Price album.
Well, Gary's the one who made that comment that you need to get into Margo Price.
Oh, see, I'm telling you, I can't see these comments. They're so freaking small.
Now I'm going to just like narrate it for you. I'm going to be like, Gary says Chris needs to get into Margo Price.
You got to remember, Alex, I'm almost 50, so.
Yeah, okay. It's hard to forget.
I'm 50.
So he sent you Gary. So it sounds like Gary sent you a record for Margo Price, and well, okay. So that leads into the question, right? Because I think we all probably do this more unintentionally, but I would bet money. That there are artists, that I would say classic country artists, that are doing that stuff today. Mm-hmm. Than we probably realize, because they probably don't get any sort of exposure or anything like that. But are there any new artists that you've heard that you're like, damn, they're really channeling that old school classic country vibe that I love?
There are. It's funny though, like you put me on the spot. I can't remember like I've been to my local record shop, and this artist was playing, and I wish I could look him up or whatever, but I don't know how to do that when I'm on this live chat. But
sure.
Basically, my point is that there are. The thing is that it's underground though, because nobody wants to listen to that shit on the radio. They don't want real country music on the radio.
Yeah,
and sure. I think a lot of the bands that Sam listens to, like, I'm not really well versed on Americana bands. Mm-hmm. Sam is, but I feel like a lot of those Americana bands are sort of bringing in that traditionalist country to their arrangements as well.
Yeah.
But you still have people like Dwight Yoakam. Dwight Yoakam's still making albums.
Yeah.
George Strait has a new album coming out. Alan Jackson's still coming out with stuff. Mary Chapin Carpenter, she does more of like a folk country, but still it's more traditional, rooted in like acoustic guitars. So there are people doing it. You just have to seek it out.
You gotta seek it out. That's right. Gary, I gotta tell you, I am so tired. I don't know what Emma says later. I don't know if she's gonna. Listen. I'm not from Chicago. Chicago is not home to me. My best friend does live in Chicago, and I've been in Chicago a million times. hate this hatred, and it's always coming from these rural fucks like you, Gary. These people who live out in the middle of fucking,
Gary lives in the Amish country.
Let me get this straight, Gary. Your neighbors are waving Confederate flags, and you're afraid to go to Chicago. Listen, sorry, I'm getting caught up in my words here. If you look at any of the actual research for places like Chicago, the per capita per person, crime rates, all those different things are significantly lower than they are in countless other cities across the country. This whole idea, I don't want to go to Chicago, I'm going to get shot. I've been to Chicago so many damn times, and I could give you a laundry list of a million other cities that I have felt significantly less safe in. And just want to put that out there, Gary. So hang out in your little rural Ohio, little place that you call home, and call me later. Tony from Two from the Trunk is here, a fellow teacher.
Tony P.
Tony Parla, the man. Hey, Tony, thanks for being here. I
always Kyle love said, how he's like, he always starts his videos. He's like, the queen is upstairs. And I don't know. I think Tony should do some more videos with his wife.
1,000%. And
and Alex, let me be clear. I'm talking VC videos here.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Okay, well. Kyle says, I like bluegrass more than country overall. Bela Fleck, for example, or Del McCurdy. Bela Fleck's the man. I mean, Bela Fleck's incredible. He's just he is a musician that has one of the very few that I think has just crossed over to a million other.
Oh, I didn't mention this musician, but Marty Stewart.
Marty Stewart, yeah.
I mean, that guy, he played with the Lester Flat Band. He plays mandolin. He plays guitar. I mean, that guy, he's a picker.
Yeah, him and his Fabulous Superlatives are coming here. I think in the fall, and Sam was huge on Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives. That was that Way Out West. Is that the name of the?
Did you ever hear the Mavericks?
No.
Oh, you got to listen to the Mavericks, dude. Their lead singer, Raul Malo, that guy is phenomenal. But plus, they bring in like some Latin flavor to their music as well. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, it's funny. Emma and I have some thoughts. Well, no, we don't have thoughts for you. Okay, this is actually really funny. So Emma and I saw the Rolling Stones in Chicago. This was, maybe a month ago at this point.
Yeah.
Opening for the Stones was Lainey Wilson, who is a country artist. She's just a modern country artist that I think falls into truthfully, she falls into exactly what you're talking about. And so she was opening, and like, it's not really my thing, but Gary really likes her. Gary likes his female artists, as you know.
Oh yeah.
Gary really loves her. So of course Gary's like, how was Lainey? And we're like, she was fine. Like, she doesn't really fit. I think it was an interesting fit for her opening for the Stones.
Right.
Because I don't think like the vast majority of people there are probably into that sort of thing. But the whole time,
why did the Stones pick her as an opening act?
I mean, I think they were picking younger artists who this would be some great exposure and all that kind of stuff, to get them to see. So, I think and who knows if it was like, I doubt that like Mick and Keith were in the back room like, let's get that Lainey girl from Louisiana. But yeah, it was just interesting. And, but she is I don't know. I don't mean to sound this judgmental, but why not at this point? Like, she's from Louisiana, but has lived in Nashville for the last like 15 years. And like, I don't know. Pardon me. Like, it kind of feels like when you hear Taylor Swift early in her career, how she has like that big fake accent.
Yeah.
You're like, girl, you're from Pennsylvania.
Well, it's like when people go down south for a couple months to visit and they come back with a southern accent. I'm like, dude, you're from Poughkeepsie, New York. Like, I think people just like to adopt that accent.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun to do, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. Will's talking, oh man, y'all missing out if you can't handle growly Waits. It's funny. One of the first Tom Waits records I bought was Alice.
Yeah.
And there's like a song on there where he's just like, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like his regular singing better.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, my favorite Tom Waits is Closing Time. I mean, that first record's great.
Yeah.
Love it. And I love, Nighthawks at the Diner and all that type. And, was it in the Heart of Saturday Night? Is that the second one?
Yeah.
Or third one? Yep. Isn't Tom Waits in the Polar Express movies?
I don't know. I know Leon Redbone is in Elf.
Really?
Yeah, he plays the snowman.
Fascinating. I didn't know that was Leon Redbone. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. All right, keep it rolling here. More Tom Waits stuff. Tom Waits for no one. Oh, that's funny.
Is anybody writing like you and Chris should do more videos together?
Never.
Okay. Because I'm picking up on this chemistry.
Thank you. No, you're always invited. This is more of a question for me about, do I consider Andrew Gabbard country music from Coal Mine? So Andrew Gabbard is an artist on Coal Mine Records. He's also the touring guitarist in the Black Keys. But his solo stuff is very kind of, like country fried, I guess would be the word. Now, Sam is a huge fan of his record called Cedar City Sweetheart.
Okay.
It ranked like one of his top records from last year. Maybe country-ish. I don't think it's the type. It doesn't sound anything like bro country or anything like that. It really is more singer songwritery, psyche country fried type stuff. But for sure. Let's see. Chris Stapleton is real country and he's popular. I don't doubt. I mean, he's very popular. Yeah. I don't mind Chris Stapleton at all.
I'm not a big Chris Stapleton fan, and I'm going to tell you right now.
This is from Gary, by the way. So before you insult this person, just know it's Gary. So insult him more.
Oh, that's fine. Chris Stapleton stole his style of singing from Travis Tritt. And if you don't believe me, go back and listen to some of those Travis Tritt tunes. That's Chris Stapleton. I love Gary, but come on, Gary. Maybe he thinks Chris Stapleton's a peanut.
Okay, Gary says he was being sarcastic. Sorry. That's funny. Okay. Well, that's why it's hard to catch up on these comments. Let's see. Tony P says she's laughing. I'm guessing he might be talking about
the Queen.
About the Queen. God, we talk about the Queen.
Yeah.
Kyle said, my wife suggested Brandi Carlile, a newer artist, channels older country. She worked in the late Leslie Jordan at one point. Brandi Carlile?
I don't know too much about Brandi. Wasn't Brandi Carlile working with Joni Mitchell too?
I think Brandi Carlile's worked with a lot of people.
Well, here, I'm going to throw this name out there. Jack White worked with Loretta Lynn. Jack White produced the last few Loretta Lynn albums before she passed.
Yeah, didn't Kid Rock date her?
I don't know, either that or Snoop Dogg. I can't remember. But,
one of the two. No, it was Martha.
But you want to hear a great album, Loretta Lynn. The album's called Van Leer Rose, and it's produced by Jack White.
Interesting.
I think Jack plays on it as well, but it's sort of it's traditional country, but it's got a little bit of a psych vibe to it.
Yeah. Into that. Tony with a great comment. My sister lived in North Carolina for 14 years. She came back to Pennsylvania and couldn't speak English.
Yeah, some of those Southern accents, it's really like, okay, are you speaking the same language that I'm speaking? Because it doesn't sound like it.
Right. Hey, Richard says, say, Alex, I think you and Chris should do more videos together.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Now we're talking. Elliot is talking about Glenn and Sam doing bluegrass live stream on Tuesday.
Glenn Kellaway, man, that guy can play the banjo. Wow,
he's great.
Yeah.
What is this? Gary says Alex has chemistry with anyone. Honestly, probably the best at live streams. Oh, thank you, Gary. Especially after all the grief I just gave you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah. Gary's a good cat.
Gary's the best, man. It was so cool seeing him and I went to go see the first time we met was when we were seeing KK's Priest with LA Guns and Burning Witches.
Nice.
And
I
then
love LA Guns.
Yeah, they were great. And then we obviously went down to meet Steve at All the World's a Stage down in Cincinnati to see Uriah Heep and Saxon. So yeah, it was Gary's the best, man. He's just so cool to be around. And again, like exactly how exactly how do you think? So
he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the lead singer's name from LA Guns.
Phil Lewis.
Yeah. Did you ever hear his first band, Girl?
So
I love it, dude.
Hold on. Hold the phone.
Chris and Alex should do more live streams together. But we need a female on here to balance it because nobody wants to see two dudes talking about records. Well, maybe Tony P does, but Gary probably does. But, now I'm just talking to myself. But I talk to myself when I make videos, so I guess it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that album.
So Sheer Greed. So obviously now here's the two coolest parts, but obviously who this is, yeah.
The guy from Def Leppard, right? Phil Collins.
Yep. Phil Collin, yeah, from Def Leppard.
Gotcha.
But here's what's very cool is
what are you?
Sorry, you can't see because you're blind. It's signed. It's signed by.
Oh, it's signed. Okay.
Now I bought this though signed in some like budget bin for like $5.
Yeah. And I'm not going to pretend to know that I knew that Phil Lewis was in a band called Girl. I think I either heard that from JC or Aaron. And I'm like, oh, cool. I got to check that out. And I was like, wow, this record is really good.
It's okay. It's of its time.
Don't they cover a Kiss tune on there?
Let me see. They do Do You Love Me?
Yeah. You really like my limousine. I like his voice too. It's just kind of, well, he's English, right?
That's the thing. Phil Lewis is English, but LA Guns is, obviously, kind of English singer with him. That's why it was so funny. Even him like talking still is like, he's still got like a little bit of that British accent going on. So
yeah. I mean, I love the song Ballad of Jane. Oh my God, that tune.
Yep.
So good.
I'm going to imagine, let's see, hold on. I'm getting lost in comments again. Okay. Elliot says, seriously, Sierra Farrell is the real deal. Amazing artist. Give her a listen. So Elliot's got some love for Sierra Farrell going on. Elliot also says that he doesn't have an accent. It's the rest of us. So it's so funny. I'm going to assume that Emma is commenting on the comment about how we need a female here.
We do. See,
and so that's why,
like I said, nobody wants to see you and I talk about records. So
no. Yes. Elliot says that we're clueless, and Gary says that Chris is sinking women. He thinks so.
Chris is what?
Yeah. Gary says Chris is seeking women. I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm always seeking women.
Yeah. Right on. Emma is lying per always just to embarrass me because it seems to be a hobby of hers that is more important than collecting records and making videos, saying that she didn't get the invite. So when in fact she's on vacation with family. So yeah, but it's kind of funny when you mentioned the whole girl thing. Now, yeah, I only have this record because I'm a huge Def Leppard fan. They were like my first band I ever loved, and so I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, Phil Collins was in a band called Girl, the whole thing.
Now let me ask you a question about Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Are you more like Pyromania Hysteria, or do you like the On Through the Night early stuff?
Yeah.
Or a little bit of everything?
It's funny you asked that because I've been thinking recently of doing like my first ranking video on YouTube, and they would be the ones I would rank first, just for emotional reasons more than anything. And I was thinking about what my ranking would look like. I love all that stuff. Like I between you and me, I guess, is that my favorite, my number one, the album that I get the most enjoyment out of still to this day is High and Dry.
Yeah.
But my number two, this would be a very interesting jump. My number two would be probably Hysteria.
Well,
which is weird to make that.
Yeah,
that jump.
I mean, I learned we've already established I'm a little bit older than you are. So when I first started watching MTV was pretty much when MTV first started, and it was all the Pyromania videos.
Yep.
So that's how I got into Def Leppard, and then of course we waited forever for Hysteria to come out, and I loved Hysteria because that was just part of the whole hair metal glam thing. But then I went back and discovered High and Dry and On Through the Night. I don't know. It's just got a different vibe. It's that new wave of British heavy metal. I don't know. It's got a different, and this is, I don't want to take anything away from Hysteria because I think Hysteria is a phenomenal album. But I'm kind of drawn more to that early stuff as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a little bit more gritty.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, those first two, it's funny, like those first two, On Through the Night and High and Dry, people put up there with, Iron Maiden records and Saxon records, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like how the style of those. And
well, they all toured together. They all played the same places, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so much of it, was, but to me, I think it's funny bringing this back is that I think people get the sonic change confused because what they will say is Def Leppard was a new wave of British heavy metal band until Mutt Lange came in and changed their ways and made them a radio band. Yeah. Well, Mutt Lange also produced High and Dry. So there is that. To me, what it was the personnel change. And it was bringing in somebody from a shitty glam band like this that was obsessed with David Bowie just as much as he was obsessed. You know what I mean? Like when you look at the guitar players, Pete Willis at the time and Steve Clark, it was like, those were guys that were listening to hella Thin Lizzy, bands like Thin Lizzy. You know what I mean? That was like, I hear a ton, especially that dueling guitar, a ton of Thin Lizzy on those first two records.
Well, they were also listening to a lot of Sweet as well.
Exactly, for sure. And so I think that was like one of the big changes was like, like something like Hysteria sounds a lot more like a T-Rex record than it does a Thin Lizzy record.
Yeah. I'm just always amazed by how many hits were on that album.
6 top 20 singles.
And I think, what was the first single released from that album?
So the first single released from the album was Women.
Because it didn't really do much.
Didn't do much. That was the biggest gaffe ever. And they thought the idea was that the fans were coming from Pyromania, so the fans would have wanted something heavier. So they dropped the heaviest track on the record. It was Women, and it completely flopped. In fact, Hysteria has seven singles were released from Hysteria. 7 of the 12 tracks, 6 of them were top 20. Women's the only one that didn't reach top 20.
There are certain songs that take me back to when I was a kid, and I can almost like, you can feel or smell or touch whatever like was happening at that point. One of the songs is Pictures of You by The Cure.
Oh yeah.
And another song is the song Hysteria from Def Leppard. There's just something about that song, like it transports me back. And it's weird because obviously there are other songs from the 80s I like too, but there are just those certain songs for whatever reason, Hysteria being one of them, that just bring you back.
That has become, I mean, I've seen them now, I think 10 times.
Yeah.
That has become my favorite song to hear live from them. And it's just, I love that song. Absolutely.
It's great too.
Yeah. And Kyle likes it too. A song I've always liked. Yeah.
I mean, I really don't need to hear Pour Some Sugar on Me ever again.
I probably didn't need to hear it the first time.
Yeah. That song was freaking huge though.
So huge. And there's even a story with that too. It was like the record, I think Hysteria comes out to 63 minutes which is insanely long for a single record, right? But was what I guess a lot of people were doing in the late 80s. But unless you were like Todd Rundgren in the early 70s and releasing like 70-minute records. But Yeah, apparently the story was like the record was done. It was going to like it was ready to go, and then Joe Elliott was just like fucking around on the guitar and like was just singing the chorus, and Mutt Lange was like, "No, we gotta do something with that real quick," and they like threw the whole song together in a week, and
Yes.
then it blew up. And it's true, like the popularity of that song was maybe this is what you're getting at, Chris. The reason it was everywhere for you, the popularity of that song was heavily driven by strip clubs.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I mean, we went to quite a few in college. I wasn't going to many strip clubs when I was in junior high school, but
that was your problem. That was your problem.
yeah, well, it was that and the song by Kiss, "Lick It Up." That was a huge strip club song.
Yeah.
Motley Crue's "Girls, Girls, Girls." We could do a live stream on this, Alex, like popular strip club songs.
Well, and the big one was Cherry Pie. Of course, huge from Warrant.
Warrant.
Which, funny enough, I think what is his God rest his soul, singer of Warrant, what's his name?
Jani Lane.
Jani Lane.
Yeah.
He like that song and like the fame of that song like ruined him.
Yeah.
Like
because that album is a very strong album.
Yeah. But that came out what? Like it was like 91 maybe?
It came out at the tail end of the whole hair metal thing.
Right.
And I remember seeing a documentary about it where literally like they were taking the poster down in the record company of Cherry Pie and they were putting up, I'm just going to say Alice in Chains. I don't know if it was that, but it was literally that overnight thing in grunge.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. That was always the interesting thing about Warrant was like they were huge, obviously, and that song was huge, but they were like 2.5 years slightly behind.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, Cherry Pie was obviously a huge song anyway, so it's not like, oh, it could have been bigger, but like,
well, and then their first album had the hit Heaven. It also had Down Boys and Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich.
Down Boys go. Yeah, but that first album was what year though? Was it 89?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, they were later. Yeah. I mean, the Poisons and the Motley Crues had already been out for a while.
Yeah. And I mean, that's I guess like a video idea for people a lot smarter than me, but like, think about some of those bands, still on the Def Leppard train, right? Like the record Adrenalize, that came out in 92 and it's not going to rank very high on my ranking.
No, it had the song Let's Get Rocked.
Right. Not necessarily because of the songs. It was an album that came out in 92 that sounds like it should have come out in 88.
Yeah.
It was like in 90. It just doesn't age well. It's not what other people are doing. It's like no one, was trying to hear that sort of pop, glam, hair metal, whatever you want to call it. People were already upset in Seattle at the time.
I tell you what, I like the grunge albums that those hair metal bands came out with. Like Warrant came out with an album called Dog Eat Dog.
Yep.
Which is really good. Skid Row came out with Subhuman Race.
Yep.
Crew came out with
what they're self-titled, just Motley Crue, right? With
I thought there was another one too.
Well, that was the one with what's his face, or the one without Vince Neil, right?
Yeah. But my point is that those bands, they were trying. Def Leppard came out with Slang.
Slang, yeah.
And they're all pretty good albums. The problem is they just don't sound like those bands.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioning that. What has been interesting though is I think all of those records have aged pretty damn good.
Yeah,
I think, and this is where I'm probably gonna want to lose the big Def Leppard fans. Slang is gonna rank probably pretty high. It's gonna rank mid, but like a lot of people like Slang was like, oh, that's the worst. That's the outcast. That's the Slang's the hot space of the catalog or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that record to my ears still when I play it today sounds it might not be my favorite or even top 4 or 5, but it has aged probably the best outside of like High and Dry, because High and Dry just sounds great and it still sounds great.
Well, another example is Kiss Carnival of Souls.
Yeah.
And that album, there was like no promotion for that. It like came out and then suddenly they were doing the reunion shows with Ace and Peter.
Yep.
But that's a really strong album as well.
Sam St. John says, boys. Sam St. John saying hi. Sam, are you home yet? You told me you're going to be home around 10. I need you and Chris Profi on the stream together. Get up here, my son.
Sam is probably listening to some Americana right now.
Isn't he always?
Playing that black guitar of his.
Yeah. Hold on, Sam. I'm sending you a link. Check your email.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of collab videos, even back in the day with other people too. I feel like, I don't know, that kind of went along the wayside for whatever reason.
Oh, Sam's on the road. Okay. Well, Sam, when you get home, yeah. We're talking about bar mitzvah parties, and I can't imagine pour some sugar on me at a bar mitzvah party. That sounds hilarious.
You know that band, Me First and the Gimme Gimmes?
No.
They're a punk band, but they do cover songs. They're hilarious. But one of their albums is they're playing at a bar mitzvah. I don't know. I think it's sort of a joke sort of thing, but you hear the kids in the background. But you should check them out. They're a great punk cover band.
Oh, interesting.
Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Yeah. Chris, are you a fan of the Dead Boys?
I have one of their albums, but I couldn't tell you one song off of it.
Gotcha.
So, no, I guess I'm not that big of a fan.
I guess
that
answers the question.
I like it when I hear it, but
yeah. No, I always ask the question. They're probably, I mean, the only like quote unquote punk band. I mean, they are a punk band, but really more into them just because they're an Ohio band. So it's like, you know, I think their debut was like 77. So they're kind of like right on that, like, you know, official beginning. Yeah, that young, loud, and snotty.
I think I have their debut on vinyl, and the reason I have it is have you heard of the metal band Overkill?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Dead Boys were an influence for them, and I think I read that somewhere where I'm like, all right, I got to pick up a Dead Boys album, and I probably listened to it once.
Overkill, talk about bands that have aged really well.
Oh yeah,
I do have. So I don't have any Overkill. In terms of thrash bands that I like, I find myself appreciating the not big four the most.
Yeah.
Like my favorite thrash band, honestly, is probably Testament.
I'm going to see them.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about because it's Testament, Creator. Isn't there a third?
Possessed.
And it's Possessed. That's right.
Yeah. I've never seen Testament, but I love Testament.
Yeah. I'm so pissed at myself that I skipped out on the the Bay Area tour they did last year or the year before, because they're playing here at a place called the Newport, which is like this big historic music venue on OSU's campus, and you know it's 1,500 people.
Yeah.
And I forget it was like Testament, maybe Dark Angel.
Yeah.
Dark Angel or Death Angel. I was fucking confused them. And some other huge, an Exodus.
Okay.
And I was like, I did the thing. Oh man, I don't know about it. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, you fucking idiot. So,
well, it's funny, and you know, this is, I'm not taking anything away from Metallica or Megadeth because I actually like Anthrax and Slayer. I actually listen to Anthrax and Slayer more than I listen to like Metallica and Anthrax or Metallica and Megadeth. But I think you're right. Like those bands like Testament and Exodus and Overkill and Death Angel, they're still coming out with quality releases like every couple of years. Like we have to wait so long for a Metallica album. And then like, I like this last album, but I feel like, you know, it's like Maiden. It's, you know, I'd rather listen to classic Metallica or classic Maiden than some of this newer stuff, but it's different with those other bands. Like I don't mind listening to a New Testament or a New Overkill because I almost feel like they've gotten better.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've gotten
for
faster.
Sure. Yep. And it's not, and it doesn't come with, I mean, sure, it doesn't come with like the baggage, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people shit on the album Saint Anger by Metallica, but I love that freaking album. And I think I like it because it doesn't sound anything like their other shit.
Yeah.
And it's not produced really well. You know, the vocals are rough. Lars is playing a tin can, but I don't know. There's just like a charm about it.
Yeah.
Almost like a Lou Reed Metal Machine music, but not as bad.
There's certainly a charm about that record. Yeah.
I can't stand that album.
Well, I mean, I don't, do you even call it an album? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like an album that Neil Young would have made in the early 80s to piss his record company off.
Yeah, but he did that. Isn't that like, yeah, but Neil Young's got his own Metal Machine music, doesn't he? Was that? I mean, he's put out 100 records, but
yeah, I mean, around that time he had the country record. He did that jet plane album. What's the
Landing on Water.
Landing on Water? Yeah, it's
Well,
got that.
yeah,
I like that album.
He's got all those Geffen records, but like in the mid 2000s, I don't, was it? It wasn't Chrome Dreams. Maybe it's no. He has somebody who's a Neil Young fan. Neil Young has like basically his Metal Machine music, which is like, this is just a whole bunch of noise and feedback and bullshit.
Isn't it that live album Weld? I think it's Weld. I think it's his live album.
There might be one. Well, I think Weld is maybe one of those, but that was, I think, early 90s, right? Because that was around like the same time as like Ragged Glory and all that.
Yeah. So that's not where you were thinking of?
I don't know. It might be a different one. I might be making it up though.
I know he's got an album he recorded in like a phone booth too.
That tracks. He's got an album he recorded everywhere. Hey, Chris, well, go ahead and entertain the crowd for a second. I got to use the little boys' room.
Yeah, definitely. Hello, crowd. I can't see any comments that people are posting. I just got to get my charger over here. It's getting close to my bedtime. You know, I got to get my beauty rest. Saturday night. I should be partying tonight. That's what I should be doing. But I'm hanging out in my kitchen talking with Alex. All right, I'm going to plug you guys in so I don't lose you. All right, there we go. All right. So what are some records everybody's bought this weekend? Have you been out to the record shop? I'm trying to think. Like I told Alex before that I picked up the first 3 Pantera albums. They're unofficial releases, but they still sound really good.
Yeah, because the original for those are going for hundreds of bucks, right?
Yeah. I also picked up Ozzy's. I found Ozzy. The one with shot in the dark on it.
The Ultimate Sin.
Ultimate Sin. I actually found a copy of that album. I was like, holy shit, that's hard to find.
That's hard. Did you pay much for it?
No, I got it I was surprised. I got it for $20. It's
a good deal.
Yeah, because then I looked on Discogs. I think it's like a $60, $70 album.
Yeah, usually I see that for some buku bucks for sure.
And this was cool. It still was in the shrink. It still had the hype sticker. Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, oh, this thing is gonna. And then I saw $20. I'm like, oh, you know what? This thing's probably beat up. So I took the record out. I'm like, holy shit! It looks like perfect.
Clean, right? That's awesome.
Yeah,
that was Jakey Lee. Was that him playing on that? Yeah.
And it's total when Ozzy went total glam, but yeah, because I think in the video for Shot in the Dark, he's wearing some like robe that's like a glittery robe or something. Have you ever seen the video for Shot in the Dark?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's all glammed out, and I don't know. Just certain people should not glam out.
It's so funny. So here's a video idea I was thinking of, but I don't know if I had 5 artists to do it, but Ozzy's a good pick. I might do that. It's like 5 artists that did hair metal, 5 non-hair metal artists that did hair metal really well.
Yeah.
And like I would throw Shot in the Dark in there.
Yeah.
It's not great in their grand catalog, but in terms of if you look at this simply as like a hair metal album, I fucking love Crazy Nights.
Oh, that's one of my favorite Kiss albums.
Like, I mean, it fits so perfectly into what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Heart. I mean, Heart did 80s hard rock, hair metal, quote unquote, superbly well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I run out of ideas, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, Kiss, and are you talking about bands that like didn't start out as hair metal?
Right. So like bands that you would never say are like, oh, they're hair metal, but like during that time in their career.
How would you rate would Aerosmith fit into that anywhere?
Oh, that's a good point. Well, they're so complicated because it's like they have those like I guess at that time like two very distinct periods. But I mean, I certainly would. I guess would fall into that with their type of stuff, right? Like,
yeah. I'm trying to think of other artists. Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I mean, a lot of artists ended up adopting the style of dress. You know what I mean? Like Bon Jovi was considered a hair metal band, even though, you look back at Slippery When Wet, the way that they dressed, it was sort of glam hair metal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But they didn't really start out. I mean, they kind of started out that way. So it's kind of an interesting idea, like you were saying, to go from bands maybe from like the 70s transitioning into the 80s.
Right. Yeah.
I also wanted to do a video about bands that eventually just made disco songs. Because you've got the Grateful Dead doing Shakedown Street. You've got Kiss doing I Was Made for Loving You. The Beach Boys did a disco version of Here Comes the Night.
Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2.
Yep. There's a song by Donovan. He did a disco tune as well. So many of those artists and bands ended up just saying, fuck it, I'm just going to do a disco song.
One of my favorite records of all time, and this is the one outlier of like I fucking hate that song, not because it's a disco song, but it just doesn't fit and it's not a great song, is on Excitable Boy from Warren Zevon. There's a track on there called Nighttime at the Switching Yard. Because I mean, it's like that was 78, right? And it was like the token disco song you had to throw on these records.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that they were getting pressure from the record company. But I think Paul Stanley looked at it as a sort of a challenge. He was like, well, wait a second. I could write a disco song. I could write a song that sounds like this. And he did. And then it's probably one of Kiss's most well-known songs.
I fucking love that song.
I like that song too. Yeah,
and
I love that whole album.
And you're a big Kiss fan, so you'd know this.
Yeah.
The rest of the album doesn't sound like that.
Well,
meaning like people will say like, "Oh, Dynasty, that's Kiss's disco record," and you're like, "Hold on."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I would call it a disco. It's not like Disco Very from ELO, but even that's like similar.
Well, there's two other songs on there that can be kind of considered disco light. I think Peter Criss's Dirty Livin'. If you listen to that drum pattern, it's a disco pattern. And also the song Sure Know Something.
Okay, yep.
That's kind of got a disco vibe. But you're right, everything Ace's tunes aren't really disco on that album. And then you got a few from Gene, like Charisma and X-Ray Eyes. I love that album. I love Unmasked too.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a great album. Dynasty and Unmasked are two of my favorite Kiss albums.
That's awesome. I got to catch up on comments before people get upset. Although there's a lot. Here's the thing. I'm just going to tell you all right now. Don't get mad at me for not highlighting your comment if you're just talking to each other. That's fine. Like, I'm not going to highlight every single comment of you all just having a conversation amongst each other. I love that. But it's not highlight. It's fine. Talking about a bunch of stuff. Ooh, they're talking about Alex Lifeson and his record. I'm not sure from Alex Lifeson's band. I don't know if that was recent or just going back and order those things. Going back to your Shot in the Dark Ultimate Sin, Gary is saying that the robe had to help hide the weight. That sounds good. Elliot pre-ordered the upcoming Billy Strings. Billy Strings, somebody I've been hearing just a ton about all over the place. I know he's an incredible talent in that sort of bluegrass, but also kind of, in a lot like Billy. You could put Billy Strings up there at a Metallica show and he's going to shred and sound great. Like,
right.
He's just one of those talents that I feel has just transcended genres. And pre-ordered Molly Tuttle. And I know Sam St. John, wherever he is, he's a huge Molly Tuttle fan. So I'm sure Elliot, I want to see like an Elliot, Sam St. John, throw, you in there, throw Glenn Kellaway. Like it's like all these people that just love like that acoustic Americana, singer-songwritery, sometimes bluegrassy, classic, like that whole ilk. of things.
I don't know. I don't know a lot of those new Americana bands though.
Okay.
Artists, but you know,
yeah,
I'm more country folk almost.
For sure, absolutely, yeah. Well, Dave with ELO with Discovery or Disco Very for sure.
Yeah.
Gary says the last song to talk about fax machines.
What song was that?
I'm not sure. Sorry, that might be from a little bit ago. So I forget the exact. Yeah. Let's see. Hey, Brian from Tokyo Record Styles here. Hey, man, appreciate you stopping by as always. Hope it's going well out there in Tokyo. I was made for love. That's such a good song. Let's see. Richard S says Dynasty has arguably the best cover of 2000 Man.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about the cover of that was on there too.
Elliot's going to push back. He says, "Is Shakedown Street really disco though, or is it just R&B heavy?"
Well, yeah, you could make an argument for that too.
But I mean, well, and here's another video idea. I guess we're just cranking out video ideas for all you content creators out there. You know, it's like there were those songs that completely rebirthed a career. You know what I mean? You think about, obviously it's not Shakedown Street, but you think about In the Dark with Touch of Grey, right? You know, I know, you know, or Emma might be still here watching. Her and I have talked about like she finds the song "The Flame" from Cheap Trick annoying, but like I'm like, yeah, but whenever whatever that was, either the very late 90s or very late 80s or very early 90s, like that completely rebirthed that career.
That was the first Cheap Trick song I ever knew.
Oh yeah, I said that was huge.
Well,
and I remember going when I saw Cheap Trick with Heart a couple of months ago. I was there with a buddy who he just loves concerts, so he always goes. He's like, "This is great," and he knew like, you know, Surrender and I Want You to Want Me and all that type of stuff. When they bust into The Flame, he's like, he's like, "I've heard this song a million times. I had no idea it was Cheap Trick," you know. And I was like, "Well, yeah, it's how, you know."
Well, Heart did the same thing in the 80s. They just totally embraced that.
Oh yeah.
But
1000%.
Anybody else commenting? Any other interesting comments?
No, I've been through them all. A lot of people that are talking to going these different things. Let's see, Beer and Vinyl, The Flame. Yeah, okay. May of 1988. Yeah, I mean, they were, probably 6-7 years outside of when they were popular, but yeah. Yeah, let's see. In the mid to late 70s, you had to take a stand, disco, pro, or con. Yeah, Elliot says like in that time, it was like you had to take a stand on the whole disco thing. You know, it's interesting too, but I think of bands like, you know, the Brothers Gibb. I think, you know, the Saturday Night Fever stuff's great and, you know, all that type of stuff. I've always loved the Bee Gees, and, you know, I've never heard anything from the Bee Gees that I'm like, oh, fuck that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, how much that blow up from like, you know, Saturday Night Fever and all that type of stuff, I think took away from their first, you know, several records. That I know you're a pretty big Bee Gees guy, right?
Yeah, I love the album Odessa.
Oh, beautiful, right? And Odessa and, you know, Cucumber Castle and like Idea and Horizontal, like this amazing like psyche poppy stuff is just so great, right?
Yeah, and I never knew that they had those albums because I only knew of them for their disco stuff.
Exactly. And I put Odessa up there with some of the. I mean, who would have thought? Like, you know, who would have thought if you're going to say like, oh, back in what 1969? It's
around there, yeah.
It was like a 69 record, like that there would be a band who would put out a double record that's a concept record about a fictitious ship that sank in the night. And you could think of a billion prog bands and hard rock bands that would have done something like that.
Yeah.
But it was the fucking Bee Gees, man.
Well, it also had a velvet cover too.
And it had the velvet cover too.
Yeah. Yeah, they were ahead of their time. I love the Bee Gees. There's an album of theirs called Life in a Tin Can, which is really good too.
When did that come out?
It was post Odessa. I don't remember the exact year, but it had a die cut. It's kind of a cheesy cover. It's a die cut cover of their faces, like literally on a tin can.
Yeah,
but it's a cool album though. It's sort of that folky, psyche concept sort of stuff that they were doing.
I love it though. That's so good. That's so good. Let's see here. Tony Parala from the basement. I couldn't dabble into disco. It was against my better judgment. Plus, he couldn't dance, he says.
Yeah, I can't.
Gary says he's betting he could dance. Yeah. Oh, this is actually a good point. Richard says, fortunately, Rush did no disco stuff, but New World Man is a bit new wave. I would say that Rush certainly, I will say this about Rush. They might have been the best at, and it makes sense based on who they were and just how intelligent they were and sort of where they saw their career going.
Mhm.
Rush was one of the best, I think, artists at understanding where the industry was going.
Yeah.
And where and when and what they had to change to fit into that. You know, I've found myself, I still can't get into like Hold Your Fire as much.
Right.
But I've found myself loving records like Grace Under Pressure a ton, or Signals a ton. Like, I mean,
yeah,
they just so perfectly fell into that, and which, you know, you listen to what they were doing 10 years previously, and they're like, there's no way they would be able to evolve like that. But the way they were able to, yeah.
Well, I think what was good too is they slowly evolved. It wasn't like they went from 2112 and the next album was Hold Your Fire.
Yeah.
Like, they slowly transitioned. Getty stopped screaming so much and more singing. Signals is one of my favorite albums. But listen to Grace Under Pressure, and I'm telling you, I love Rush, but they were ripping the Police off with that album.
I mean, it was definitely that style, yeah.
That whole reggae beat and everything. Like,
yep.
I listened to that album, I'm like, this sounds like the Police.
Yep.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No, but I mean, that's what was, well, yeah. Grace Under Pressure was what, 84?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too good with the years, but Hold Your Fire, I agree. I like Hold Your Fire, but I feel like Hold Your Fire was pushing it a little too far.
Sure, 1000%. Now, yeah, I referenced that in a video I did several weeks, if not months ago. Where it was for MGK Boston, who was doing a thread about 1985.
Yeah,
and I showed Power Windows.
Yeah,
I was sort of mentioning that I think Power Windows, that at the time was the pop record.
Yeah,
that I thought that had aged really well, but that Hold Your Fire has not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Power Windows has aged better. I love Mystic Rhythms on that album.
Oh yeah.
But Hold Your Fire, I mean, you listen to, and Time Stands Still is it's an earworm. I like that tune, but it's definitely dated.
Yeah.
Time Stands Still, like it's, I don't know. Who's singing that with him?
That's Amy Mann.
And who is she with?
She did her own
okay. I thought she was
throughout the 90s. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not.
Didn't they just happen to be in the studio together and they're like,
yeah, I'm not sure. It's funny. So she had a Record Store Day release maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like one of her original albums that was getting a repress for the first time, I think. Because it was from the 90s. And so it was like one of those things where, there was no choice of getting an original. And it was one of those things that like a lot of people loved the record of like, oh, Amy Mann, it's great. She is a very talented singer songwriter, amazing. But it was like one of those things of like, Amy Mann, wait, is that the girl on Time Stand Still? Like it was like, all the rock and roll people are like, wait a minute, like that's Time Stand Still girl.
And I was listening to the album Presto.
Yeah.
And that's good too, but I don't know. They sort of lost me after Grace Under Pressure. I feel like there was a lot of good stuff. Like I like a lot of the stuff on Roll the Bones, and even when they went heavier in the 90s with can't remember any of the titles of the albums, but
God, Counterparts.
Counterparts, yeah.
Roll the Bones. And
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I don't gravitate towards those albums post Grace Under Pressure as much. I feel like for me, I don't know. They're good albums. So for whatever reason, I like to go back to those earlier albums better.
No, I hear you for sure.
I mean, Counterparts is a very strong album.
I love their last record, their final record. I think it's is it Clockwork Angels? I think it's a great. I mean, it's a heavy record, right? I mean, they were tipping into progressive metal at that point. Like that's a heavy ass record.
Yeah. There's a lot going on too.
For sure, yeah. For three people, absolutely.
It was a dense sound too.
Yeah. Elliot back in here talking about, and I would agree with this, Elliot, because I think this had long-lasting impacts that is still showing its big ugly face today. He says the biggest problem with disco era is that it killed live music. Clubs just hired a DJ and stopped booking bands.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, and yeah, I can see that definitely. Well, and I play live as well with, and I play acoustic guitar. I do more like singer-songwriter, even 90s alternative type stuff. But I played in bands as well. But what I've noticed is that people, when they're out, they do want to dance. Like, they don't want you to do a Jim Croce tune, or they don't want you to do, Grateful Dead Ripple. You know what I mean? They want to hear something that they can dance to. So I get it, but I can also see Elliot's point too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me catch up here because I'm falling behind. Gary says Bee Gees were extremely talented. 1000% they were. Absolutely. Kyle talking about, I like some of Donna Summer, stuff like Sylvester, obscure progressive stuff, Alec R. and the Constanitos, Symphonic Orchestra, Romeo. Man, Kyle be out here on a different wavelength than all of us. That man knows so much about everything. I'm like, I can't even catch up. Totally agree with the Rush Evolution. They lost me a bit with Presto, Counterparts era. But if I love those albums, interesting that you love Roll the Bones a lot, Richard, because I know that that's one that gets a lot of hate because of like the rap that's in it and all that kind of stuff. But Tony loves KC and the Sunshine Band. We knew that. Kyle was talking about how Rush has changed really well. I contend them to have the longest, most consistent catalog in prog and maybe rock history. Self-titled through Presto or more or less all 4 stars or better.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point. Yeah.
They came out with a lot of quality albums.
Yeah. More talk on KC and the Sunshine Band. Elliot's out. It's getting late for him. Take care, Elliot. Appreciate you joining, friend. Be good. So is Tony, 2 from the trunk. Come early. All the different things going on. Everybody saying good night to Tony and Elliot. We're waiting to listen. I know you're getting late too over there, Chris.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time going. It's almost getting close to 11:30.
But we should have Sam St. John joining us here at any minute.
Really?
I feel like I'm a terrible, like on FM radio, how like the late night DJs are just like, God save me from this world. Like, I feel like that's how I feel like I'm like nearing the end of my shift, and I'm like, but don't worry, people. The great Sam St. John is coming in to relieve Chris, and you're like, oh God,
Yeah, I'll wait till Sam gets on. I'll say hi to him. I'll bust his balls a little bit.
Yeah, and talk about the monkeys and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so so your thoughts on those? Dare I say, they were. Well, there was an actual one of those Pantera records is called Power Metal, isn't it?
Yeah, but I didn't pick that one up. That was the 4th album that Phil Anselmo actually came on.
Okay, he's on Power Metal.
It was pre Cowboys from Hell, their 90s.
Right.
Yeah, let me just go pull those albums.
Yeah, pull those.
Well, first of all, this was the Ultimate Sin that I picked up with the hype sticker.
Damn, it's got hype too?
Yeah.
Shit.
I don't know if you can see that, but.
Oh, for sure we can, yeah.
Yeah, so I was hesitant to pick up these Pantera records, and I remember I was at the record store, and they were like $30 a piece, and I'm like, I don't feel like spending these on unofficial releases.
Sure.
But then I'm texting JC, and he's like, dude, they sound great. And then I looked on Discogs, and I'm like, I didn't seem to be many people selling them, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pick them up, and I'm glad I did. I mean, this was the cheesy covers though.
The
This is
best
Metal
cover.
Magic.
Look at that. Come on now.
And these are the guys in the back. But it's great stuff, and I did a video the other day about it. But basically, if you like early Def Leppard and Rat and some 80s Judas Priest, this fits right into that. Then their second album was Projects in the Jungle. Another crazy cover.
God, yeah.
And there's the guys in the back there.
I mean, they're fitting right in.
Yeah, but again, you can already
point,
hear Dimebag. His guitar playing is phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
on these
so,
albums.
At that point, so this is before Phil, but you have Dimebag and you have Vinnie Paul, right?
Yeah, and you also have the bass player too that would go on.
You got what, Rex?
Yeah, but I guess the lead singer went on to be in a band called Lord Tracy.
Interesting. Okay.
And then their third album called I Am the Night.
Yep.
There they are right there. All great stuff. And then I guess the lead singer, what's his name? Terrence Lee, he left. He went in to be the band Lord Tracy. And then Phil Anselmo came in for that power metal album, which I think, from what I've read, it's like a bridge between these early albums and what they would become in the 90s.
Yep.
So I eventually want to pick that up as well. It's funny, though, because I was never a huge Pantera fan. And I like them. Like, when a Pantera song comes on, I'm like, yeah, this is a cool tune.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was never drawn to them. But then when I listen to this early stuff, I almost kind of like it better because it's kind of the stuff that I grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, stylistically, it's, probably a little bit more up your alley, right? I mean,
and the look too. I mean, when I was a kid, we all wanted to look like Poison. We wanted to look like Tesla. We wanted to look like Motley Crue.
Right.
I should dig these videos out. I have videos that I was at my friend's house, and we had his sister put makeup on us.
Oh boy.
Yep, and we stood on his roof and we were lip syncing to all like the 80s bands. And I actually have a video of it. I got to pull it out at some point. But that was the thing, dude. Like, you wanted your friend's sister to put makeup on you, and you wanted to be dancing around in Ozzy's robe.
Yeah,
like that was the thing.
We can still do that, Chris.
That's taken on a whole new meaning nowadays.
Sure. Yeah,
but whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So, anywho, the point of this is, I'm glad I picked these up.
And you've listened to those?
I've listened to them. I was listening to them this morning. I've listened to them each like 2 times through already.
Nice. And do you agree they sound pretty damn good, or?
Yeah, it's funny because they came with polyline sleeves.
The originals didn't.
And some of them have like an insert in them as well, like a little history of the album.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, these unofficial releases, they're getting better.
Up in the game, yeah.
And the records, like sometimes when I buy, these were all brand new too.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I buy a brand new record, I got to do a wet clean on it because the static.
Sure, yeah.
But these, I just kind of ran my little dust thingamabobby thing on it, and
yep.
I was good to go. Like, there's not a lot of static, there's not a lot of pops and clicks, like, and for an unofficial release, I was like, holy shit, these are good.
Yeah.
So now I just need to find that power metal.
Is that also, I mean, were all those released by like the same quote unquote label?
Yeah, these were on their own label called Metal Magic Records, and interesting, produced by Dimebag and Vinnie Paul's dad.
Okay.
And I guess his name is Jerry Abbott, and I guess he was also a country music writer and producer.
Interesting.
which makes sense. I mean, they grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
But I guess they came from a musical family. But yeah, you can hear from these early albums that they definitely knew what they were doing.
Yeah. That's real. Well, and Chris, trivia question: where was Dimebag murdered?
Oh shit! I should know this. Well, refresh my memory.
Well, it was in Columbus, Ohio. So
Oh, okay.
the Al Rosa Villa. But yeah, no, it's kind of funny for the longest time I thought he was, because I remember where I was.
Yeah.
When that whole thing happened, and I think there's obviously a ton sad about it, right? Like him getting fucking murdered, and
Right.
I think 2 other people died too that we forget about. Like I think a security guard and a roadie, all that kind of thing. And like the whole story was like this fucking psycho gunman like attended the previous show in Cincinnati and kind of watched how it went, and then followed them to Columbus, and then just walked in the back door and right on stage.
Yeah.
Is what's sad, I think, amongst all that, which is terrible, is that that actual club no longer exists. They never really came back after that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, man, could you imagine, like, Pantera was pretty fucking huge, right? I mean, they were a big band.
They were huge, yeah.
And then, however many years later, 10, 15 years later, you got the star of Pantera playing in this like slummed out, trashy ass, shitty club of 230 people that some kid can just walk through the back door and right on stage. And you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
the thing like that would never happen at a concert venue that would hold Pantera in the 90s, right? Like it's just one of those things of just how how things went for them. And so
well, I think it also made these small clubs go, okay, we need to be a little bit better with our security.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
But well, it's like the club where the big fire was with Great White.
Man, I was talking about this the other week. We need like a full-blown documentary on this.
Yeah.
Because I think people hear that and they're like, oh, like, okay, there was a club fire and a few people died. No, like hundreds of people died.
Yeah.
Like an insane amount of people died. By the way, speaking of people dying, let's welcome to the stage someone who died in my life a long time ago. It's Sam St. John.
Sam St. John.
When did I die, Alex?
Sir, I don't know. You get into like the whole spiritual thing of that. Don't we all die at some point and carry on? I don't know what you get into.
I think it's a biological fact.
That's fair. Yeah.
Wait, we all die at some point?
Yeah. Buckle up, Chris.
But here's the thing, Chris, although we all die, not all of us live.
That's true. Well, I want to say, Sam, the only reason I'm still on here is because you were coming on. So
oh well.
Because it's getting late.
The crowd goes wild.
But now all the ladies are gonna join because Sam's on, so
well.
Yeah.
Not the decent ones.
How have you been, Sam?
Yeah, go ahead.
I am good. Like Alex mentioned, 6 hours ago when he started the stream, it was pizza night. So
nice.
It's a big moves for pizza night. And
okay, so what does pizza night entail? I know it means pizza, but what else are we talking about?
It means going to mom
and into that.
It goes. Okay.
You don't have to answer that.
Ooh, a little shandy there, Sam.
Yeah, I'm going on this stream like I need something to wet that whistle. Chris, I have a bigger question. Are those curtains behind you from Walmart? Because if so, I'll have the same ones.
No, you know what? I think these were from Big Lots.
Oh well, the ugly cousin.
Yeah,
you hear Big Lots. Big Lots is declared bankruptcy. You know?
Oh really? Well, here's the thing. I'm not sitting in front of my records because I don't feel like sitting on the floor because then my ass and my legs start to hurt. So I'm sitting at my kitchen table.
In it or on it?
I'm being honest with you. And you know what? It's no frills here, Sam. I'm going to show my cheap ass curtains. I don't give a shit.
Hey, look, I didn't have anything on my wall until about 2 weeks ago. So, I've been in this apartment for 3 years.
Here you go, Sam. I don't know if you've noticed this, but Chris cannot read. So we've been reading the comments back to him. So Gary at Physical Format Rock and Roll says those are shower curtains.
Those aren't pillows.
Those aren't pillows.
Those aren't buoys.
Raquel Welch and the Pope.
Oh man.
Okay, I like how Sam just completely avoided the what's pizza night,
Yeah, so
as if Chris actually needs to know. Like,
it's literally not as boring as you think. I literally went to my mom and dad's, watched the Olympics, and we ordered pizza.
Okay, you say that's boring. I would love to do that with my parents, but they're all fucking dead, Sam. So
I'm going out tomorrow for to the diner with my parents for breakfast. Yeah.
What is a Chris Profi breakfast?
I don't know. I was trying to think of what I was going to get. I usually get like just like an American cheese omelet.
I was like, don't tell me parfait or anything.
No. I do. My diet doesn't start till next Saturday. But I'm going to do like an American cheese omelet, probably hash browns, maybe some bacon, definitely coffee.
How do you take that coffee?
I just like a little bit of cream in it, no sugar or anything. Yeah. I sometimes do black coffee as well, but I do like a little bit of half and half.
Do you do black coffee in bed?
I try not to drink coffee before I go to bed. Yeah. But.
Yeah, I'm a decaf man, as Alex knows. When Alex came to visit back in March, I had to have like a special coffee for Alex, as in regular.
As in regular.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If I came to visit you, you need regular coffee. Yeah.
Well, this couch is always open to you, Chris.
Thank you.
I have extra doors.
But Sam, Sam doesn't say is like it's not like he has like a caffeine problem. Sam claims that caffeine gives him heartburn. Let's be clear here.
Well, there is a little bit of caffeine in decaf.
There is, yeah. And any connoisseur will tell you decaf is just like it's just destroyed coffee, because I've been to like tea farms in South Carolina, yes, and apparently that's like a nasty process to decaffeinate a tea leaf or a coffee bean.
Well, they will say that. Not they will say. I think it's true that technically, one of the misconceptions is that like people are like, oh, I need a strong, bold, dark roast coffee. So technically, coffee that is darker roasted is going to have less caffeine because the caffeine is burnt out of it. So like a light roast coffee has more caffeine in it than dark roast because of the heat. So
Alex, I think every time you put up a video in the morning, you should be coffee and vinyl.
Well, you don't want to steal Roberts on my turntable,
I would never dream of doing that, Chris.
Yeah.
You'd be like, it'd be like coffee's on my Scribscrab or whatever.
I don't think Robert's actually drinking coffee. I really don't.
No. First of all, he has a whole mug that says hot cup of asshole or whatever it says.
I personally think there's nothing in that mug. I think he's filming these at like 2 a.m. and he's like, it's a coffee kind of morning, but there's nothing in that mug, dude.
Like, dude, it's like 9 p.m. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I don't know. I love Robert, but I don't think there's anything in that mug but sparkles and lost dreams.
Gary from Physical Rock and Roll says, thanks for the interesting coffee information, Alex. Gary, I know you're with your grandchild or family or something that other people have that I don't. Why don't you come up here, Gary? I'm clearly not on mute anymore.
Yeah, get Gary up here.
Get Gary up. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get Chris here the whole night because we're just going to keep on inviting people that are more important than me.
I'm just going to grab another beer.
I'll be like, Chris, you can't go home yet. We're just about to welcome. It's still, the whole thing.
we got to text Chris's boys. Get Jeff and Brandon and Josh up here. Then it's a party.
Dude, I have no life, so might as well just stay up. I'm cracking another beer.
Wait,
Chris, talking, Chris.
What do you have there? What are you cracking?
This is Narragansett.
Oh, our boy Matthew Street was drinking that earlier today.
Yeah, it's sort of like I almost call it like a college beer because it just tastes like beer. There's nothing fancy. It's not an IPA. It's not infused with the souls of dead country singers or anything. It's just a beer.
Now that was an interesting conversation, Sam. You might have been listening, but I don't know if you're like fully in it when Chris was talking earlier about, I think as he calls it, quote unquote real country. Similar. Chris, I know you're in the state of New York, and so you wouldn't understand, but I would say similar to how people like Sam and I live in quote unquote real America. And so a conversation I would love to hear you two talk about is this whole idea of like real country, because Sam, I know you would not necessarily call yourself a country fan, but I think there's a lot of those artists of old that Chris is talking about that you would probably be into, whether it's like, the Johnny Cashes of the world or all that other stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, my recent project, Chris, the past few days I've been going through all my records and finally going and putting them all in Discogs. I mean, I had a bunch in Discogs, but I've been, literally going through the whole line of records, like one at a time, double checking, is it in Discogs? And it's actually been kind of fun once I'm in it. Cause like I'll do like one of like the cubes at a time. I'll do that. It'll take an hour. And then I'm like, all right, that's my day doing that. And it's cool. Yeah. But with that, I'm looking at records that I have. Like one of them is I've Always Been Crazy by Waylon Jennings, who I'm sure you're a fan. I know Gary wants that song at his funeral. And when I do that service for Gary, I'll be sure to play that for him on the day of his funeral. You're welcome, Gary.
I love Waylon Jennings.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm probably more of like a Willie fan. In terms of what about Willie Nelson? Yeah. In terms of like I love Johnny Cash as well. So like those are the two like the big ones and like the old timers. But I also I love Glenn Campbell, who I know you're a fan of, very underappreciated. It's like all that stuff I love. But once we start getting into like that second or third generation country of like the mainstream, I'm not talking Dwight Yoakam, who I'm speaking Chris's language here for a second, and Marty Stewart, our boy. But like I'm talking like your Clint Blacks and your Garth Brooks and your Alan Jacksons, like that group, even like your George Strait. Like I'm just like, for me, that's when I'm kind of like, eh. But on the other hand, there's a line. I love Randy Travis, and he came out of that same mold. So at that point, it comes down to taste. But like today, I mean, all your dudes that are out there, your Jason Aldeans and Luke Bryans and Morgan Wallens, who I just saw somebody got arrested at a Morgan Wallen concert tonight. If anybody's interested.
Was it the Hawk Tuah girl?
It was not, although she might be an act of terrorism, because apparently that's what it was. Have you seen, like, there have been more recent clips of her where like they've done like she's been showing up at all these shows, and like the first couple she was getting these big cheers, and now she does it and everybody's like, who is this? Yeah. Like that flash was like that. But anyway, I mean I could do a whole thing about what's real country, and I probably will offend people saying what I think is country and what's not. But what were you saying earlier, Chris? I didn't catch that conversation.
No, I mean, I was just saying kind of along the same lines as you were saying. Like, I feel like, I guess there's no, it's like any genre of music. I guess there's no rules to the genre, but, I almost feel like to be considered country music, you've got to have certain things. Like, I feel like there should at least be some sort of pedal steel somewhere on your album. There should be some sort of fiddle playing. There's going to be a little bit of twang to your vocal. I want to hear some acoustic guitar. Maybe a more gritty production. Like, I feel like country music now is so overproduced and with layered vocals and electric guitars mixed right up into the song. And I don't know. I just feel like country music should have more of an earthy sort of vibe to it. And you listen to those old Johnny Cash records and the Porter Wagner records and the Lester Flatt records and George Jones and all those guys, they went into the studio and they did like one or two takes of these tunes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's good enough. And, maybe they weren't singing on key for some of the notes. Like, I know there's that tune that Dylan and Johnny do, the Girl from the Lowland or whatever. What's that
North
song
Country.
Called? Yeah, Girl from the North Country. There are some kind of iffy notes in that song.
And Dylan screws up the lyrics. Yeah.
But they kept the take. And I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a little bit of rawness to country music as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's probably why like I started getting out of it when, I mean, you had a lot of that. I mean, there was crossover from the beginning. I mean, Johnny Cash crossed over. All those Sun Records guys all crossed over. But like, yeah, once you started getting into, you know, like the boot scoot and boogie and all that stuff, it has its place for the people that like it, but it's you know, it lost that edge, like you were kind of saying.
Well, and for me, like some of the artists that you mentioned that you don't like, I actually really do like. Like I love Alan Jackson. I love George Strait. I love Garth Brooks. I love Randy. Well, you said you like Randy Travis.
Yeah, I love Randy.
Garth Brooks was who got me into country. Like, and then I went back and I was like, oh, then I went back and discovered like earlier country music, but it was because of Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I get what you're saying. But like when those guys, when Randy Travis came out, he was part of that. They called it the New Traditionalists.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because they were doing that traditional country music, but adding kind of a little bit of a different spin to it.
Yeah.
Is Gary coming on? Gary, where are you?
Hold on. Just relax, Chris, for once in your damn life. All right. Here, and Chris, before you get all upset, I want
this
to
is
note
what happens after 2 beers.
I want to note this, that the Chris Prophy Bob Dylan crossover song was one of my favorites, of mixing Girl from North Country with Sad Eye Lady of the Lowlands with Girl from the North Lowlands.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Sam knew what I was talking about.
He sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl from the Lowlands. You mean the girl from the North Country, Chris? What the fuck?
You have Side Eye? Yeah.
And you have your own channel?
Well, speaking of girls from the Lowlands, I'm going to actually welcome to the stage somebody who has played a strong, meaningful role in my life, because he comes from the Lowlands, which is about, 55 miles northwest of me, but we call it the Lowlands, and he's here to defend his honor. Please, everybody, welcome to the stage. It's the great, the magnificent, amazing Gary from Physical Format Rock and Roll.
Gary.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm here for Alex to shit all over me again.
I was like, Gary, have you changed that shirt since July 20th?
No, I just wear the same thing.
Sam, do you have that shirt?
Huh?
I was asking Sam if Sam has that shirt.
No, I wasn't special enough to go.
He didn't go, so why would he get a shirt?
Gary, what's our beverage tonight?
Yeah, Gary Bear, what are you drinking?
Shiner Bock.
Ooh.
You can't say that anymore, Gary.
Shiner.
Hardly know her. Yeah. Gary, tell us.
I haven't spoken with Gary in a while.
Well, now's your time.
It's like Jerry Springer here.
I miss doing things with Chris like that, because the thing about Chris that I always liked, when we would do these live streams every now and then, which, by the way, not everybody in that group likes to do live streams. Some of them like to do the pre-record ahead of time and stuff.
Yeah.
But with Chris, his sense of humor is basically like a 13-year-old's.
Yeah.
And so like him and I would just say something, and somebody else would be talking, and we'd make a comment here or there, and we'd just be kind of like giggling like idiots or something.
You've obviously never seen Alex and I on camera together.
No, I have. And seriously, I love you guys together. And, I'm not shitting around when I say, Alex does such a good job with anybody he is on with. He really does.
He does.
I mean, a lot of these live streams are kind of stupid.
Talk your shit, Gary. You're only here for a little bit.
I know, but Alex makes all of them interesting. Whenever he's on it, he brings the level up.
Well, I think the other thing too is what I like is that we've been talking about music. We're not talking about any other bullshit, politics.
Yeah.
We did talk about breakfast, but
Well, I was going to say, you guys were talking breakfast and coffee.
But, that's important, though, Gary.
Did you know that the dark roasted coffee actually has less caffeine than the lighter coffees? Really? Well, that's pretty goddamn interesting.
Wow.
Is anybody still watching?
Is anybody watching? Once Gary got on, they're like, "Oh shit, Gary's here."
Look, there you go.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Gary? Are you having fun tonight? You were watching the Olympics with your granddaughter, right? How are those going?
Is his volume working?
Oh, he's yelling. What was that you were saying about Alex and live streams, Gary?
I don't blame him for muting me. I mean,
But you obviously didn't know that about that. And listen, I mean, look.
Thank you, Emma.
Emma's just every other girl on YouTube here for Gary.
Emma's a nice girl.
She's all right. She makes it work sometimes.
Listen to you. She knows her stuff.
Well, hey, listen, yeah. Emma, you want to come on here with these 4 jokesters?
I don't. Didn't Alex say she can't? She's doing something.
Oh, she can't.
Well, I mean, she could. I don't know what she's doing exactly. I just know that she's on family vacation right now. So I was, trying to be respectful of her time. And
unlike me, who just who rushed to my home because Alex says Sam.
Well, because Chris was about to leave.
Well, what's funny too?
Sam was like, "Wait, I can get on a live stream
at 11:30.
Well, I'll be right there."
So I asked Sam a very innocent question. What is pizza night? And he gets all giggly and silent, and I was expecting some real risque answer or something, but literally it's just going to his parents' house and having pizza and watching the Olympics.
That I think it's just when Sam gets around Alex, he just gets kind of giddy.
Does he?
That's what it is. Yeah. It's like helium enters the room, and I just kind of lose senses.
It is. You seem kind of giddy when you first came on, man. You guys were talking about decaffeinated coffee. You seem like you're on caffeinated coffee right now.
You would think I'm running off of I was on the road for 30 minutes, and I'm seeing that Alex is still alive. I told him I'd be home at 10, and for some reason I gotta keep a curfew with Alex.
What's the deal with your hair? Is it darker? Your hair looks darker.
I got it cut.
Is it okay? Were you dyeing your hair before and now it's
no? I didn't bathe today. If that helps.
Okay, so maybe it's just kind of greasy looking or something.
It's greasy. Some of that pizza, the pepperoni, I just took and kind of did like that.
Okay, I mean I'm not saying it looks bad. It just looks darker. That's all.
Well, sometimes they like.
What's the deal with Sam's hair?
I'm just jealous because I don't have hair like that. So.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, maybe one day. No, I did cut it off the first time.
No, that's not going to happen now.
No, it was like 3 months without a trim, and it had to happen yesterday, so it happened.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's just the haircut and the lighting.
I mean, I could turn lights on and let you, do that for you.
See, it looks red.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, see, there are traces of copper. See, we were talking about music earlier. Now we're talking about coffee. That makes coffee look pretty dirty.
That's true.
I've got traces of copper in my hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you were on earlier, but there was a little bit of a connection point. Chris and I were talking about LA Guns because I was talking about meeting up with you and seeing LA Guns. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever showed you this a record. I showed Chris earlier, but he can't see shit right now. Let me switch this around.
I got to get my glasses fixed.
But the record. So the singer of LA Guns is Phil Lewis. He's the British guy in an American band, but the band he was in before LA Guns was called Girl.
Yeah.
With the great Phil Collen.
Not Collins.
He would later. This came out in I think 1980.
Then I think he was in Def Leppard, wasn't he?
He would join Def Leppard in 82. So he would leave Girl and join Def Leppard. But here was cool. Here we got the little.
He never owned a shirt again. Oh, you got that autographed. I see.
I bought it autographed.
Oh,
believe
you
it
bought
or
it
not.
autographed. I'm sorry.
Did Girl have a song called "Girl from the Low Country"?
That's a
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
What were you saying there? I could kind of hear it when I was trying to get on here, Chris. Who did you say got you into country music?
Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. And Sam, you don't really like a whole lot of country music, but you like the Americana, which is kind of like they can't decide if they're country or rock and roll.
Right.
So just walk down the middle. Right.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying earlier. That I was, I mentioned to you. I don't know if you heard that I offered to do your funeral one day. To play, I've always been crazy.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? That would be awesome. I just think that's a perfect song to play.
The only time Sam will ever be in Ohio, by the way.
Yeah,
Alex double down. Yeah.
That's right. I was like, Sam, we could carpool if you're interested in swinging up to Gary's funeral.
That was a disappointment of when I found out Sam was not going to be at that, because that thing, going to that thing out, and I was very, I was pissed off that Chris wasn't coming either. Chris basically said, well, I've got these other friends that I see all the time, but fuck you guys. I'm not coming.
That sounds like him. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though.
And then I found out, Sam had stuff going on and he couldn't make it. And that was kind of like.
And then Steve got, whooping cough wherever he had.
Yeah. Well, with Steve, I mean, I was disappointed Steve wasn't there, but I've met Steve.
Yeah.
I've never met you. And here's the thing about meeting Chris. I met Chris, but I feel like I'm better friends with Chris now than when we met. We became better friends through meeting, definitely. But like when Chris and I first met, we didn't really know each other that well.
No, we only went. Well, we went out to dinner, right? It was like a
we went out to dinner.
2-hour
It
thing.
was like really quick. He had to, we both had to work the next morning, and we had to drive way back. Chris was like nice enough to drive out of his way to meet me at some halfway point. We both had to drive to get back, and
Well, it was actually a halfway house that we met at.
Yeah. We met at. Well, we didn't even know. Well, we had to go to a couple places.
Yeah.
First place we went to didn't have food.
Right.
So.
Well, that's kind of how it was the first time I met Alex. I mean, it was like October or so. I mean, we were like, we were knew each other off camera and that sort of thing. But really in March when he was here, and I'm like, that was like the best time. Like we'll still talk about that stupid weekend, but it helped that we had done like the stream together and like all that stuff at that point.
Sam, let me interrupt really quick. I'm coming back. I'll keep you posted on when, but I got another work trip I got to take to Blacksburg, if you know what I mean. Me putting the burger in Blacksburg. Yeah, okay. Anyway, we'll talk more about the next time I'm flopping on your couch, if you know what I mean. And plus sleeping over at your apartment,
Yeah, plus coming over as well, yeah.
I think I need to get off of this. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, then maybe leave the stream,
Now it's become late night with Alex and Sam.
Is anybody even still watching?
Yeah, I mean, we got 11 people, which, I mean...
Wow, they must be really bored.
It's like a popular Wednesday for Sam and I. Sam, you were talking about something...
Dang. All right, continue.
No, you were talking.
Oh, just about you. Like Gary was mentioning how they became even better friends even after they met in person. And that's kind of how it was with you and I, just the times that we've met. Because the first time you were here, you just came over. We hung out like one time at my apartment. And then you went back because you had a hotel for both nights. And then the second time you came, you got here earlier before your work thing. And like we actually, hung out, had some March Madness. You were fighting, essentially double pneumonia.
Man, I always think about like I had such a good time and how much of a time I would have had if I wasn't like also dying. Well, I say dying. Here's the difference: is like when I was like a little bit sick, I still made the trip because I made a commitment. Unlike unlike Steve and his, as Sam called it, his whooping cough.
Well, the whole time you were here, I was like, man, what do you have? I'm like, am I going to get sick? You literally said, yeah, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, but like, I mean, y'all know this. I mean, Chris, Gary, both of you are I'm just going to say a little bit older. One of you a little bit older than the other. But I mean, it's like having a cold is just like, it's a way of life. It's like, it happens. Like, you're not going to like cancel a trip because you have a cold or a cough. Like, you're going to get one and you just, you work it out. Chris, you're a teacher, man. You're surrounded by these fifth graders who be like, spitting all over your ass and shit.
What kind of schools he teaches?
Sorry, I read an article before going live. It got me in the mood. But but sorry, Chris, you were talking about something, Chris, about them, yeah?
No, I was just gonna. I never feel 100%. Like I'm always coughing, sneezing, limping.
I operate at like 26% on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. I'm always tired. I'm either limping or I'm like fucking coughing or so I don't know. I just So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Chris, I don't know.
Do you have a lot of record shows up your way there, Chris?
Not a lot. I mean, my son and I went to one a couple months ago. They're not that great. I think that's probably why I don't really seek them out that much. Yeah, I'd rather just go to a record store. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of fun to be there with everybody, and you end up finding records sometimes that you wouldn't normally if you just went to a normal record store. But
yeah,
I don't really seek them out.
Do you ever check out? Does anybody ever check out like Marketplace? That like when people are like posting like here's a whole box of records like for $1 a piece, and
no.
I see it, but I never click on the links.
I mean, they're usually like Trini Lopez and that kind of stuff, So.
I mean, my thing. I actually wonder if Gary would have better luck with it because I mean, my thing is that there are so many. There's so many record stores and like where I'm at that a lot of times they would have already scooped it up already or like went and offered them some money for it and picked it up. And if they haven't, then it probably means it's trash or they were like overpriced for it. I mean, I went to I don't know if you all spend, I mean, Sam, we've done this twice now, but like, I'm curious, Gary and Chris, based on how long you've been doing this, like, I'm sensing that the whole idea of the record show is either obsolete or needs to like dramatically change with the times to be appropriate to what we're dealing with. I mean, I went to like a small record show yesterday. They're held in like a different Columbus area, probably quarterly. So it's like once every 3 months. There's a different like brewery they'll partner with. They'll set up. It's great. It's fun. Get a beer. I walk around with my shirt and people are like, "Nice shirt," and I'm like, "Thanks, fatty." And that kind of stuff. But it's like I'm sitting there. I was like, these fuckers were doing this in 1997, before eBay and before Discogs and before anything, and like they just got used to selling whatever they want. They got used to selling. I'm just gonna say this because of Chris and Sam. Like they were selling their Monkeys headquarters for $20, and you're like, this isn't. I would assume it's like with especially again in Columbus, right? Like we have 7 or so really, really strong record stores that you can, you know what I mean? And so it's just like interesting because I find myself going to these shows and like never finding like an actual deal. I'll buy things because like I don't want to go to like a record show with Sam and walk away with nothing. But like
both times we've gone, I've gotten way more than you have.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's saying he doesn't want to go in and
right.
Yeah, he has to get something.
Right. Like I feel like I'm like, let's like get something. But I'm like, okay, so I'll give this example. The only Pink Floyd record I am missing. I had one, I ended up selling it because I was in a little bit of a financial pickle, needed more pickles, you know what I mean? Was A Momentary Lapse of Reason. I don't really love the record that much, but whatever. So that is the only Pink Floyd record I do not have on wax, is A Momentary Lapse of Reason. And so like whenever I go into stores, trying to find it, and I'll see it anywhere from $15 to maybe $30. in that range, 15 to 30. You can buy a brand new reissue with an extra disc of like shit for, $30, whatever. Then like they selling this thing, at their little table for $80.
Yeah.
$80. And I'm like, I'm not even going to bother.
And it's probably beat to shit too.
Right. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. And because the other thing too is like, it'll say like, oh, what did it say? It said it was near mint. And I'm like, I don't trust this either, because if it's not near mint, it's not like you have a business that I can leave a Yelp review on,
right.
And so I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy anything because it was all like stuff of like, not only can I get this all on Discogs or eBay for half as much, I can go into any record store in town and get this from a reputable source who cleans and grades and does the things that I trust for half as much.
Or get the remaster for $35. Yeah.
Sure, but I don't do that. I only buy originals, Sam. It's kind of part of my thing.
Yeah, because you're a real member of the vinyl community.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I think you're right though, because back in the day, before the eBays and the Discogs and before record stores were prevalent again, you had to go to these record shows because that was the only place you could find this shit. Yep. Now you can sit on your couch and go on eBay, Discogs, Amazon. You could my local record store even has a website. So you can order everything from the comfort of your couch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is anybody saying anything, commenting?
Well, I just brought up a couple that you didn't see, obviously, but let's see. Okay, hold on. I did not know. First of all, I did not know that Richard S., who's one of our favorites in the comment section, I did not know that he was also a teacher. And so this is important. I'm going to read this to you. No, I'll go ahead. I'll read this to you directly, Chris. Richard S. says, I can safely say that in 35 years of teaching, I've never had a kid spit all over my ass. Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's a different school.
That's a different school. Yeah. Emma is talking about the Chicagoland record show is huge. It's worth paying. I mean, that's the thing is like people talk about the few extra bucks to do the early bid. Is there a problem there, Gary?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do the early bird. Great. They used to be so fun. Everything is overpriced to oblivion. Yeah. I mean, I just like one of the records that I FBA is here. FBA, what's up, my brother?
Howdy there.
Hope you're well. Hope you're doing swell. One of my, I don't know if I would call it like a whatever grail, define that however you want to, but a record that was on my wish list for a very long time was the debut from a band called The Soft Machine from the UK. And it's like one of those like, oh, this came out in like the late 60s. It had a uncensored cover and then got reissued with a censored cover, the whole story. And it was on my wish list for a
Virgin Killer.
Similar, but not as creepy with like naked children and stuff. I think actually all it had was just a bear. It just had like a bare ass crack. That was the thing. So I
and that's your grail.
Yeah, I'm looking. Listen. I'm looking for an album that has a bare ass crack on the front.
Yeah,
but not like Houses of the Holy. I'm talking like
there's no meaning to Houses of the Holy.
It's like, not even okay.
I will say the whole jacket.
Like there are those records where I'm like, yeah, this was like Blind Faith debut and Virgin Killer. Like there are some of those you're like, oh yeah, like I don't know if like sexualizing this naked like 12-year-old girl was the way to go here, even for the 70s.
Yeah,
but
I'll never understand that cover.
Yeah, right. It's like the what cover I love. Okay, now I'm going on a tangent. But sure. Gary, Chris, you'll probably appreciate this. Sam, you'll like nod your head and be like, shoot, record after Virgin Killer. The original, it's all the
Taken by Force.
Taken by Force. That's the one. The original is all the gravestones, right? It's like in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Give me the fucking cemetery, man. That's badass cover.
That bad of a cover.
It's a cemetery.
Well, Love Drive has the girl with the guy's hand on her breast.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, with that gum.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't gum.
I think that's a Hypnosis cover.
Oh, 1000%.
Have you seen the Hypnosis documentary?
Yes.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Great. Anyways, I was telling a story before Sam interrupted, but so the point is, this thing was on my want list for a long time. It kept showing up on Discogs. I basically assumed I was like, it's a $100 record. It would always show up $100. Oh, that one's 80, but it's like, VG minus. Okay, whatever sort of thing. And I would go to a record show and I would see the uncensored second or third press of it, $100, all these things. And I'm like, I just walked into a local shop, Lost Weekend Records here in Columbus, and they had it, the first press, uncensored, VG plus all around, and it was $40. And I'm like, oh, why would I go? Why would I do this? Why would I do this sort of thing? So I just the record show thing has just gotten a little bit out of control for me. So yeah.
Now do you get most of your records from record stores?
90, I would say probably 95% of them. I will say though, and I own this entirely, I don't buy, Gary probably knows, I don't buy a ton of new records. And truthfully, the new records I do buy, I usually will buy off Amazon because the prices are just so much better. I've said this a million times. I don't know if I've said it to Chris or Gary. I know I've said it to Sam a bunch of times, right? It's like, okay, if a record is $30 and Amazon is selling it for $27, I will go and support, and I really want it. I will go and support the record store. I will buy it for $30.
Yeah.
But the way it's shaping up a lot of times is that a record will be $40 and Amazon will have it for $22.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, oh, that influences my decision a little bit here.
Sure.
Well, I'm also, and Gary knows this, I buy a lot of CDs still because the price difference, and also I feel like I'll take more chances. Like I just did a video about the new Anvil album.
Oh yeah,
it sucks, but
metal on metal.
I paid like $12 for the CD, where it's like, all right, whatever. If I would have paid $35 for the vinyl, I would have been pissed.
Yeah. I kind of agree with both of you guys what you just said. I'm like Alex. I buy the majority of my records at a record store.
Yeah.
I do get things online, but it's very rare that I get records online. But yeah, sometimes it'll be like a new release. But I also do like what Chris says. Sometimes on the new releases, when the record's just too stupid expensive, I get the CD. I don't really want to necessarily, but it's like I can't afford to get the record, so I get the CD. Plus, I know I can listen to the CD in my car.
Well, here's another example too: the new Iron Maiden album, Senjutsu.
Yeah,
the vinyl is a triple vinyl. Like I hate triple vinyl; they're hard to work with, they're cumbersome, and I just ordered the CD of that. It's just a double CD.
What are you trying to do with it, Chris?
I can't. What do I do?
You guys don't find
cumbersome, like it's a bad IKEA product or something.
I hate triple whatever gatefolds, whatever the hell they're called. I hate them.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a fan of those either, really.
It's hard to get the record in and out, and it's a pain in the ass. So I just ordered the CD and I just open it up and I'm like, oh, here it is. I just pop it in, and plus it's cheaper too. So
yeah, there's just a lot of things though. I feel like I want them on vinyl, but the newer ones sometimes I just can't do it. I mean, you're going to charge me $40 for a new release, and maybe $15 for the CD. It's like, what? Come on, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if you guys are into The Cure that much, but they just reissued Japanese Whispers.
When did that come out?
It's a collection of their early singles.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I'd love to get it, but the vinyl's like close to $40, and I'm like, I already have it on CD, but I don't know. It's just prices are crazy.
But I think one thing that will drive me crazy when it comes to record stores is because I do want to get my stuff at a record store. I don't want to just buy everything online, because if you do that, you're just going to destroy all the record stores.
Yeah.
So, and I buy a lot of used records, like what Alex just said. But what I hate is when I go in there and there's no price on the record. I walk up and the guy looks at it and he goes, huh, and he gets on his phone, or his computer, starts looking to see what it's going for online. I'm like, Jesus, I could go online and do that. It's like, if I'm here, I expect it to be cheaper.
Yeah.
I'll show this example, and Sam, I think this is true for the Christmas album you and I just bought too, right? I know this is one of Gary's favorite bands. He loves this because I remember him and Steve giving me shit for it down in Cincinnati, as if I was doing something wrong.
Does it have a butt crack on it?
But this is the Grateful Dead, Ready or Not. So this came out, I don't know, maybe 5 or so years ago. Yeah, 2019. Live album from like later day stuff. So I think this was like early 90s. Stuff before Jerry passed, right? So like a lot of stuff from 92, 95, 94, all that kind of, it's just part of like the whole Grateful Dead thing.
Yeah.
This retails for either on Amazon or any store or whatever for $49.99. It's a $50 record.
Is it two records?
2 records, yeah, double record. $50 record. It was one of those. I mean, Sam knows I got these like magical connections on stupid Amazon. Well, I was like, send me a link. I'm like, here, Sam knows. This I bought on Amazon. Let's see if you can see. Well, I know Chris won't be able to see.
Oh shoot, yeah.
This was $16.69.
Holy shit!
Crap.
So it was like one of those like glitches in the system. I don't know. Amazon fucks up sometimes. I'm okay with it. Where it was like, it was $16. And at that point, I'm like, now this was not a record I would have typically bought. It's not like I wanted the record. I just came across it and I was like, you know what? That's like shit. When Sam and I go out for our buffalo chicken calzones, I'm spending twice that.
Yeah.
Like I can take an L for a chicken calzone and buy a record with that. You know what I mean?
I could go for a chicken calzone right now, actually.
Dude. I would fuck a chicken
That sounds
calzone.
good. Yeah.
I would destroy.
Dude, I would let a chicken calzone spit all over my asshole.
I would eat it out of a triple gatefold album.
Dude. I was like, that calzone's cumbersome, but so is that ass.
Oh yeah, it's just like the girl from the Low Country.
Oh.
Man, y'all should have had pizza night.
Oh man, dude, I could.
Well, your parents didn't invite me, did they?
No,
They didn't, and they paid, so it was a night worth.
Where was the pizza from?
A local joint, but they're it's this Italian family from New York. So like Alex was asking about it earlier, and like you walk in and they're talking, Italian to themselves here in this rural, small town where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's solid stuff.
Nice. What'd you get? Pepperoni?
We had 2. So my sister has a red meat allergy, so hers was mushroom, onion, and eggplant, but mine was pepperoni and onion.
Nice.
Yeah, it was real good. And like
eggplant?
Yeah, I mean, she I don't know why she picked it. I think it's because like it has like that kind of like meat kind of texture, and the chicken's usually dry. Like if you just get chicken on the pizza, unless it's like buffalo, so you slather in that sauce.
Did you guys get some garlic knots?
No, we're not rich, Chris.
No. Well, you don't have curtains like I have?
No, that's true. I have the upper end Walmart variety, the blackout curtains. Yeah.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah. Oh, you can still see through these. My neighbors complain when I come out here in my skivvies. So.
Yeah.
Gary, you were trying to say something.
I don't remember what. Oh,
yeah.
You know what? One thing. Hey, real quick. If you do finally get momentary lapse of reason,
yeah, I
would just get that reissue.
Yeah.
It's not expensive, obviously, because I bought it, so it can't be expensive. But they took out, like they toned down some of the 80s production of that album.
Yeah.
It actually does sound better than the original press.
That is my, I think, issue with that. And I say this as like an 80s, it's like one of my favorite records ever is Hysteria. Jesus, I love the 80s. But like something about I actually want to dive into this. Why I love the Division Bell as much as I do, but don't care for a momentary lapse of reason.
Well, Division Bell is a better album.
Well, I think the thing is, if you get past Learning to Fly, Signs of Life, Dogs of War, On the Turning Away, everything else is kind of not as good.
I like that Terminal Frost. Give me the
Yeah.
I like the Terminal
What
Frost.
what was the live record from that album?
Is that the quiet, delicate sound of thunder?
Yeah, do you have that on vinyl?
I do, because they reissued that as like I think it's a quad. Boy, if you hate a triple LP, Chris, you probably fuck a quad.
Well, yeah, because I think that's the last Floyd I need is that one. But if it's a quad, I'm not buying it.
Well,
you know what drives me crazy? Why is it we have these, multiple live albums they've reissued on vinyl of Pink Floyd when it wasn't truly Pink Floyd, where it didn't have Roger Waters in it, but yet we can't get like a live album from the Animals tour.
Right, we can't get live at Pompeii just as a standalone vinyl record, man.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, that just seems stupid. I mean, I like the whole era. I like that era and everything, but it's like, come on, the classic Pink Floyd era, where all the members.
Because you also had the album Pulse too.
I mean, their live at Pompeii was their magma opus.
The magma opus.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a volcano joke because of fucking Mythic. Okay, sir.
Oh,
that's not bad.
I haven't heard you say that for a while.
Oh, now I get it. Did that have a butt crack on the cover? Or?
Just the cemented, people that are at Pompeii. But anyway.
Okay. So it is a triple. It's a triple, Chris.
Okay.
But it's a triple box set, I guess. Technically a box. So it comes with a book.
But that's the one with the guy with the light bulbs on his body, right?
Well, I'm going to guess that's what this light bulb is, yeah.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah, I can't see, Alex. Remember, my glasses are like... Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah. Big ass light bulb. Yeah.
But that's
because I guess so. The
right?
original of Delicate Sound of Thunder was only 2 LPs, I think. So they reissued this with 3.
Okay.
New mix and all that type of stuff.
I'm just gonna get the original one then.
I mean, I would.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that fold.
No, I don't like the triple.
No, I wouldn't either.
That's why I got rid of my Yes.
What, Yes songs?
Yeah, the one that's a triple. Like you have to keep folding it out, and then like there's a lock of Roger Dean's hair inside of it, and it's like too much.
Yeah,
I
will
Roger
say
Dean and did not get an autograph.
You what now?
I saw Roger Dean and I did not get an autograph.
No. Okay, okay. Is that like a regret? I would struggle with that because, well, okay, is it appropriate to have an artist, the actual like artist in terms of like the painter, illustrator, whatever, sign an album?
Yeah.
Like, would you have Roger Dean sign Demons and Wizards?
Why not?
I would.
I would too. Fuck it.
I'd make him sign an album that he didn't do the artwork for.
Yeah.
Can you sign this Hypnosis cover?
That's a good joke, Chris. No, that's a great idea.
So Roger, I've got Houses of the Holy here. Can you sign it right on the girl's butt right there for me?
That's so good. Well, could you spit? I'll ask him to spit on it.
Just spit on it and then sign it.
Shoo. I like how the title of this is Saturday Night Special. It's special, all right.
It's special.
Is anybody still watching?
I'm going to ask Sam this because, well, I'm going to ask Sam and Gary this. So, Chris and I are more city rats. But Sam and Gary, they're out there a little bit in the cut. Isn't Saturday Night Special? Isn't that a gun reference?
Yeah. On the Leonard Skinner song.
Right. That's why I named it that, because it was Saturday Night Special. Yeah.
Right,
It's a
nobody
gun,
around
right?
here talks that way, so I don't know.
Yeah, nobody talks around like that here either. And
that's a lot. Sam loves, by the way, Sam is a huge Leonard Skinner fan. But it kind of tracks because like Leonard Skinner's logo and Sam's apartment are decorated kind of similarly. So
yep. You're ridiculous.
I mean, Sam also when Sam's doing his restaurants and bars and he's out there singing a song, he also calls it his Gods and Guns tour as well. So I mean, I think they're both equally qualified to use that phrase. So.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you seen Sam play live at these places, Alex?
No, absolutely not. No. No, the first time I've. Here's the thing with Sam. Sam and I, we had this whole conversation about like I was like, Sam just got Venmo for his shows like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like he was doing this for years and years and years and years, and I was like, Sam, why don't you get a Venmo and put the QR code, like in front of like your, people can go and the whole thing. And he was like, I don't want to do with that. It's like, whatever. I'm like, you want to make money? Like, I'll be your manager, Same thing. I was feeding Sam video ideas earlier today. Like, someone's got to,
Well, you and I were throwing out a whole bunch of video ideas before.
So many.
What can I do without you, Alex? I just don't know.
FBA asked the question. I want to bring FBA asked the question. I have an unpopular opinion. Beer and Vinyl, how about the Final Cut? I
love the Final Cut.
So I'm not going to put the Final Cut up there with like Dark Side and Wish You Were Here and Animals, but I like the Final Cut far more than a lot of people. It is not near the bottom for me.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But I also like his solo album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking.
It's like the same thing, right? I mean, like very similar musically.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of emotion and anger in the Final Cut.
Yes.
And I just find it odd when people just totally want to dismiss it. I get it, and I agree. No, is it on the same level as Animals or Dark Side? No, no, not at all. But it's definitely not a piece of trash or anything like that.
Well, and I'll talk about another band too, Zeppelin. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about Coda, but I feel like people shit on Presence, and I'm like, I love that album. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it, but I mean, you've got Achilles' Last Stand on there. You've got T for One.
T for One's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Nobody's fault.
Nobody's fault but mine. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great album. People shit on that though.
I always wonder too. It's interesting. I think Zeppelin more so than others of like when people are used to like 10 out of 10s.
Yeah.
If they get an 8 out of 10, they're like, fuck this record,
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, well, okay, like,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, it's not Zeppelin 4, but
sure. But I also think too, like, Presence to me represents also like, and I think a lot of people don't think about this, and leave it to a millennial to tell the boomers how it goes. Sam, I'm just kidding, but like, to me, it's. So much of these things are a timing thing. Like Presence was what, 76?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be able to make a Led Zeppelin 2 in 1976.
Right.
And so I think that's true for a lot of different records that came out for a lot of different bands, right? Of like, is it really bad? Or is it like, no, like not to go political, but like you didn't just fall out of a coconut tree, right? Like it's like things do exist in the context of what's going on at the time. And so,
because look at what came next and Through the Outdoor.
It is funny. This comes up a lot. This is not an unpopular opinion, but I do think, people will say like, what would have happened if like John Bonham didn't die or something? And it's like, I think Zeppelin was probably pretty done around 1980.
Well, I think I personally feel like they would have done what Robert Plant did, is kind of move more into that 80s sounding stuff. I mean, because then Jimmy Page, he joined the firm, right?
And hasn't done anything since.
Yeah. What?
In 84, I think, yeah.
Was there anything between Zeppelin and the Firm?
He did the Death Wish 2 soundtrack.
Okay.
And that was it.
And then
I just feel Zeppelin would have fallen into the 80s traps like all those other bands.
Sure. But and when was Gary? When was Coverdale Page?
That wasn't until like 91.
And he hasn't done anything since.
Or after that, or 93. Yeah,
I like his solo album, Outsider.
Outrider? Yeah.
Outrider. Lady from the Lowland?
Dude, that's so good.
What is it? Outrider?
Outrider.
Oh.
Outrider.
And that
So,
was
Alex,
like 87 or 88.
This is probably why I should edit my videos.
I saw that tour.
Yeah. I like that album.
Is that down here, Gary?
Pardon me?
Do you see him down here?
I saw him in Dayton, Harrow.
Oh, in Dayton, okay.
Yeah. Which is no longer open, but you thought, Alex, you were joking about, like in my area. Here's a good example. The neighbor guy comes over, and for a minute he's talking to me, and he's telling me how not to get political, and I won't go beyond this, but he said how Donald Trump represents Christians so much better, and I just like, oh, okay.
That's like the older I get, the more I really connect with oh shoot, what's the stupid cartoon movie with the penguins? Or maybe Madagascar. It might just be Madagascar. The older I get, the more I relate to just smile and wave, boys.
Yeah.
Just smile and wave. Like, just great.
He started saying one thing after another, and I'm like, okay.
All right.
Everything you're saying right now I can tell what news you listen to, and
yeah.
I'm just like, but the thing is, I mean, he's an old man, he's a hardworking guy, and it's just like, well, we don't, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, that's what you get out there. That's what you get out there.
Yeah.
Amish country.
Yeah. Gary, you coming down to Columbus anytime soon? Any concerts on the horizon? Anything good?
I was just looking tonight, Alex, trying to figure out I really would have liked to went down last night and saw that Ohio Players show.
I didn't even know it was happening.
Well, yeah, the thing I had to, I started watching my granddaughter last night. Like, I got her at 4:30, and the reason I'm on here now is because my wife finally came home tonight, and they're already in bed. So, but yeah, I couldn't go down.
Do you know where they played?
At the Ohio State Fair.
Oh, they were playing the state. Okay, that makes sense. Well,
yeah,
I wouldn't have gone to that. Okay.
It was them and somebody else.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I didn't really know the other band. I mean, I know the name, but
yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I completely forgot Ohio State Fair is going on right now.
Yeah,
until I guess through tomorrow. Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know of. I can't think of any other shows coming to Columbus. There's so many shows that don't come to Columbus. It drives me
a lot. But because how far you're? What, an hour from here?
Yeah, I'm only about, depending on where you're talking about in Columbus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dublin. Yeah, I'm about an hour.
Okay. Are you closer? Technically, how long would the drive be to Dayton?
To Dayton, about an hour and a half.
Okay, it's a little bit longer because you're more. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was considering. It's so funny. I've never been to a show. I mean, I guess I'm kind of spoiled because 99% of the shows I go to are 10 minutes away, and so any show that's more than like 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm not driving all the way out there, But Alice is going to be at Rose Music Center on Tuesday.
I saw that, yeah.
And I've seen them a bunch, but like that's just such a show that I never get tired of. And I'm like, and Rose Music Center is only like 45 minutes from me.
Nice.
And I just saw them like at the end of last year. And I'm still like, oh man, because like you said, he always puts on a good show.
And I would rather see him headlining than opening and give us like the full show, right?
Well, yeah, you're right. I saw him twice last year because I saw him on that stadium thing too.
That show that we were at the same show together. Didn't even know it.
Yeah, we didn't even know it. Did we know each other yet?
No, it was Sam at the time though, who was like, I barely knew Sam at the time. This was because that was in what, July? Yeah, I was like, I said, about a year ago.
So it was like right after that, then I knew you.
Yeah, because I didn't start a channel until late October. And so, but I was kind of friends-ish with Sam. And so he was like, oh, Gary from Physical Format Rock and Roll was at that show. I'm like, I don't know fucking Gary.
Sam talks so funny.
He sounds great,
And Alex goes, Jesus Christ, how old is that guy?
I was like, yeah.
You were probably thinking that when you knew you were going to meet up with me. You're like, oh God, I'm going to meet up with him, and he's just going to say, yeah, I just got back from one of my doctor's appointments and found out I've got testicle cancer.
Oh, jeez. That sounds terrible. Man,
oh, Jesus.
That's so funny. Well, I don't know where Sam went, but I'm winding down a little bit here, boys.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I'm going to have to call it a night.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty late.
Yeah, we'll just leave Sam here. We'll all leave and then just leave Sam there doing whatever he's doing. But
I appreciate you letting me jump on.
Man, it was a ton of fun, Chris. Great to connect with you, Gary. Always a pleasure. And
thank you very much. Yeah, it's nice seeing you guys. For sure.
Yeah, I enjoy doing this on Lonely Saturdays. So
you
all have a good rest of the weekend. We'll see you soon. Thanks everybody on the comments, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. And take care, everyone. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.